Okay. Good morning to everyone. On behalf of ISOC St. Vincent and the Grenadines chapter, I am pleased to welcome all of you to our Universal Acceptance Day, enhancing technical curriculum by integrating internationalized domain name, IDN, and universal acceptance. That's under the theme, hence the reason why you are here. So before we go any further, let us seek the Lord. I would be happy if you can stand. Gracious Father, we thank you. We thank you for who you are. We thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for bringing us here safely. And those who are on their way, we ask that you also bring them safely. Father, as we go into another day of empowering our citizens, we ask that you go before us. We ask that everything would be clear to everyone is present. We pray, oh Father, that everything will be done with dignity and with respect. We bring all of those who would be presenting to us, and we also bring everyone who will be receiving, and that when we leave here, it would be an enriched experience, and that we would be willing to do, not just to hear what was presented to us. We ask, oh Father, that everything, we just commit everything and everyone into your hands in Jesus' name. Amen. We have before, well, I'm not going to allow you to sit. We have the national anthem. I think Marcellus would be. Okay, I got that. Okay, suppose we can have our seats. And we thank you very much. So I must admit that I do not know anyone here, well, I may know if it's other than those from ISOC, and I'm sure you are saying the same thing. I think we should introduce ourselves. So I'll start with me, and then we will come along my young friend, and we'll come around and end with Simone. So my name is Decima Correa. I am the secretary of the executive of the ISOC. And while you introduce yourselves, could you also please tell us what your expectations are for today? If you have none, that's fine. So by the end of it, if you have none, it means by the end of the day, we have exceeded your expectations. Not so? Right. So, but that's fine. And I expect to go on. Okay, thank you, Tia. We can say where you're from. I mean, we know, but we can. What are you from the SBGCC? Right. Okay, so. I'm and I expect to learn something. Oh, wonderful. Which student you are, you said? Oh, you teaching. How come you're not in your uniform? I am Sheila Bowman. I teach the department back in college. Hey. Hello, my name is Mark Pichon. I'm from the SBGCC. I expect the informal development position. One we actually have smart gives at the SBGCC. I'm expecting to learn about what is happening in this show. Okay, wonderful. I'm a student at SBGCC and I expect to learn movie music as well. Hi, good morning. I am Ronnie. I'm doing specialist at the USCG. And just like everybody else, I hope to learn something new today. I am not student. We have the Apple to learn why I was choosing. Morning to everyone. I'm in assistant registrar. Hi, good morning. I'm interested in seeing how we can basically more. That's it.
Good morning, my name is Darren John. I'm an IT lecturer at the St. Vincent de Grenadines Community College, and I expect to learn more about the organization.
Mhm. And we have in the back,
Roxanne Khan, the vice president of ISOC. Like anybody is in here, do not.
Oh, sorry. Rudy Daniel, I've been an ISOC member, I've been an internet society member since 2007. I've been to observe.
we have no space for observers. You have to participate.
I'm here to learn more.
Okay. Marcellus.
Marcellus Compton from NPRC, the group facilitated technical matters. Unfortunately, we are experiencing some issues currently in Utah's, but
Okay.
the results.
And Marcellus assistant. Did anybody hear what she said? Okay.
I am Relecia Douglas. I am myself at the engineer.
Okay. So thank you very much. So we actually have our work cut out for us because all of you expect to learn something. And from what I'm observing and from what I gathered is that all of you will be asking a lot of questions. So you cannot disappoint me. At my age, I don't like this. I don't handle disappointment very well. So you have to humor me today. That's reasonable. That's the bargain we have today, right? Okay. Right, Miss Aisha? See, your name is the only one I remember there. And Sprott. Because that's only your son. So I remember you and right. Here. Right. Okay, so we are back online. Oh, so we have some other persons who have joined us. Welcome to UA Day and enhancing technical curriculum by integrating IDN and UA in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. For those of you who are not from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we welcome you. We wish you were here with us in person. It is your loss, but we will try to make it as real as possible just for you. Albert, that's specifically for you.
Thank you very much.
So we will now welcome, let me apologize, those of you who are online. We experienced some technical issues, and as we know, man is not perfect. So we are happy that we are back online. Thanks to Marcellus and his assistant, we are now back. So we're now going to welcome the president of the ISOC SVG chapter to bring a few remarks. Simone Joseph Olivier. Good morning, everyone. Why you sound so dead? Come on, you're Simone. Hello. I was just so that, you could get a little bit more energetic. Thank you for joining us today. Good morning and a welcome to our second annual Universal Acceptance Day hosted by the SVG Internet Society chapter. We are happy to have you along our journey as we continue to advocate for a more inclusive access to the internet. Our momentum is basically building up, but we still have a long way to go when it comes to building awareness, especially as it relates to universal acceptance. And we are happy that you are here today so that you can learn more about how we can incorporate this into the work that you are currently doing. Our focus today is on academia, and that is why, as you would have introduced yourself, you realize that we are focusing on the tertiary level education, which is the community college. And it's focusing mainly on the IT lecturers, those who are working in the IT space at the college, etc., and of course, our students. Our theme for this year is enhancing technical curriculum by integrating internationalized domain name, and universal acceptance. And we would be highlighting some of the roles of the educational institutions in shaping the digital environment for now and also for the future. We all know that with technology, it has allowed us to basically interconnect without thinking about language, background, etc., and the use of digital resources. But the question is, how do we get to a place where we have a multilingual and inclusive at the same time internet? One way we can start is from what we are doing now, starting with the educational institutions, which would allow us to get to the place where there is inclusive and multilingual internet in our society. Universal acceptance and internationalized domain name will help us to get this job done. So it doesn't matter the region you're in, or the cultural background that you have, or the language you speak. Everyone would enjoy equitable access to the digital world. But the concepts need to be incorporated into our curriculum, especially from a tertiary level, as I indicated before, so that the upcoming generation, like who you are now, basically, and the upcoming generation of engineers, software developers, IT specialists, etc., can create or continue to create an internet that genuinely benefits all of its users. So I'm sure for some of you who don't know, you may be wondering, what is this universal acceptance and internationalized domain name? I'm not going to tell you about that because in a few minutes you would be hearing more about it. But just to give you a quick concept of universal acceptance, it's where all valid domain names and email addresses, including those in local scripts and non-Latin characters, should be recognized and processed by all internet-enabled application devices and systems. So I was very happy when I heard I can't remember what you said if you were a lecturer, but you indicated that you wanted to know how to incorporate it into the thing. I was happy when I heard you say that, because you're going to learn, part of what you're going to learn today is exactly that. So as we strive for a truly inclusive digital environment, it is imperative that our curriculum reflect the significance of UA, which is universal acceptance, equipping our students with the knowledge and skills to build and maintain systems that serve diverse population. Some of the benefits, or I should say, some of the objectives that we can achieve while we are doing so are as follows: building or bridging the digital divide. There are still a lot of users in the world who are experiencing challenges in accessing some digital platforms because of the language that they speak. We know that a lot of us, it might seem normal to us because we speak English in our case, and a lot of the population speak English. So when you go on the internet, you will notice a lot of information is in English, but there are a lot of other persons who do not speak English who may have their native language, which is not even as popular as the ones that we may be aware of. So basically they are cut off from accessing, well, from even knowing what it is, what information you're putting out there. So this is a gap that we need to bridge. You as young developers or aspiring engineers, you may want to create some sort of technological innovation, but you don't want it just to focus on a particular set of people because they only speak a specific language. You would want your innovation to reach as many persons in the world as possible, regardless of what language they speak or what background they are from, etc. So these are the type of restrictions we are trying to remove so that these barriers will not be a problem. So another thing we want is to have a broad understanding of internationalized domain name, as I said, and email addresses, so that the students will be better prepared to develop the digital services that are accessible to all, thus fostering a better communication across all linguistic barriers. Also, another objective is to encourage innovation and inclusivity. So as students, in order for you to ensure that there is no one left behind in the digital environment, you must be trained firstly to consider diverse user needs. And in this way, one of your priorities would be inclusivity whenever you are developing any technology. And lastly, strengthening our digital infrastructure. For future IT professionals and software developers, which I'm sure we have them among us here today, you must be equipped with the knowledge to design systems and support universal acceptance compliance, ensuring that internet infrastructure evolves in a universal, accessible manner. So let's prepare our students for the evolving job market and to contribute to a more inclusive and accessible digital ecosystem. Educators, curriculum developers, etc., it is now a part of your responsibility to embed the concept of UA into your learning modules or your teaching modules and your technical training programs. We hope that as you learn, or if you already have some knowledge, you will be reminded of UA and IDN today. And I'm going to warn you now, you will be hearing a lot of abbreviations, especially when our friend Albert comes on. So please start taking note. UA, Universal Acceptance. IDN, Internationalized Domain Names. In this space, there are lots of acronyms, and you will be hearing some more about them later on. So we hope that as you learn or as you're reminded of UA and IDN today, you would be willing to champion universal acceptance in education, thus creating a future where every individual, regardless of their language or their geography, they can fully participate in the digital space. So thank you for being here today, and I look forward to an insightful and productive conversation with you here as we strive together to make the internet truly universal. Thank you. Thank you, Simone, for a very informative introductory speech, so to speak. And if you know that's a terrible way of abusing the English language, what I just did. But so thank you. And Simone said that one of the purposes of UA is how to achieve multilingual and inclusive internet. And she said a big part of it is universal acceptance, UA. And she also spoke about serving diverse populations. And as we understand, yes, we are special. God created us special, but he also created almost 8 billion other people special. So we have to be able to communicate with them. And given the geopolitical situation that we are now confronted with, it makes sense that we seek other partners who may not necessarily be speaking English. And if we are honest with ourselves, we really do not speak English, do we? We speak the Vincentian Creole, and we code switch very easily. It's our heart language. You know, when you get really excited, I am not going to be saying anything nice English. That goes out of the door. So it becomes important. And this generation of Vincentian that we have, you are given a golden opportunity in that your ability to touch lives, not just in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not just in the OACS, not just in CARICOM, not just in the wider Caribbean, not just in the Americas, but we have other pockets, even from the motherland. I call the motherland, and you may say, does she mean England? No, I mean the western part of Africa and the rest of Africa. That's where I came from, my ancestors. And we need to be able to communicate and explore the whole South-South cooperation. And this is a good opportunity, a golden opportunity. And she also spoke about a broader understanding of IDN to help foster better communication across all barriers. She spoke about it being, even as we strengthen our IT infrastructure to ensure that the systems comply with, UA. And we are also, and we're just going to touch not even the tip of the iceberg, but a little part of the tip. But at least it is going to give you something that you would want to go out and get more information on. So enough of me, and I'm going to, so we're getting into the meat of the matter. Our next speaker is Albert Daniels, and he's going to speak on introduction. He's going to give you an introduction to universal acceptance. And I have to tell you a little bit about him. So buckle up. It's a little lengthy, but it contains information that is useful. Albert joined ICON, which is now, of course, I cannot read. That has now gone out of my. What's ICON standing for?
Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers.
Thank you, Albert. So that's another acronym, and it just went out of my head. So he joined in 2013. He is based in St. Lucia. So he is an OECS member, which is great. And he is a member of ICON's Global Stakeholder Engagement Team for Latin America and the Caribbean. As the ICON Senior Manager for Stakeholder Engagement for the Caribbean, Albert leads engagement in 32 Caribbean territories and also leads specialized projects in the ICON Latin America and the Caribbean regional strategy. Albert's responsibility include developing and executing the organization's strategic and tactical objectives in the Caribbean. Prior to working at ICON, he served as an information systems and information security auditor, ICT consultant at Creative Technology Solutions Limited. He also held the position of regional IT manager at KPMG Eastern Caribbean and account supervisor and IT trainer group, IT director at the CHL Group in St. Lucia. He served on several national boards in St. Lucia and has broad internet and technology-related experience, having personally introduced the internet to St. Lucia in 1993. That's a question you can ask him about, right? Make sure you ask him about that one because I want to know the answer, but I feel ashamed to ask. So please ask on my behalf. He has attended many ICON meetings and has been involved in the ICON Fellowship Program as one of the first fellows in 2007, and also as a fellowship mentor. He holds a Bachelor's of Business Administration in IT and also specialized in project management at the University of Cambridge. He holds several professional and industry certifications. He is fluent in English and conversant in Spanish, French, Norwegian, and French Creole. A good example of a UA person, no? He knows a lot of things. So, Albert, the floor is open to you. And as he speaks, please remember you ask him lots of questions and the one I told you to ask him. So you can start there.
Thank you very much, Decima. Are you able to see my slides right now?
Yeah,
Hello?
I have the problem.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Albert, sorry. Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, before I get into the meat of the presentation, I would sincerely like to congratulate Simone, the ISOP president, and of course your team down there, including your Universal Acceptance Ambassador, Chris Lynn, for putting this Universal Acceptance Day event together. Universal acceptance is very important, and organizing this event is critical to moving forward in expanding the acceptance of, as we said, IDNs and internationalized domain names and internationalized email addresses. I particularly want to recognize some of the online participants who have observed. I realize that you have the president of the ISOP chapter Nigeria, who happens to be in Geneva. I see several of my friends online from Guyana, Raymond Khan from the Country Code Top Level Domain Name, Lance Hines, who has senior positions in the ICANN multi-stakeholder system. Of course, we have our Trinidadians, Claire Craig and Dr. Patrick Hossain, who runs the CCTLD there. And of course, I see one person from the Department of Technology in St. Kitts. So the fact that these persons are online is testimony to the importance of the topic that we are about to discuss. And you know, kudos to ISOC, St. Vincent and the Grenadines for putting this together. You would see on this slide the UNESCO logo. And I wanted to mention that UNESCO, I think most of us are familiar with UNESCO. UNESCO has now come on board with the whole concept of universal acceptance because it ties in very closely with the multilingualism objectives that UNESCO has and digital inclusion objectives that UNESCO has in several areas. Some of you may be wondering why the UNESCO logo is on this slide, and I just thought that I would explain that. So digital inclusion has been a long-standing commitment, particularly coming from the World Summit on the Internet Society in 2003, where WSIS essentially is looking to build a people-centered, inclusive, development-oriented information society. Basically saying that everyone should have the opportunity to participate. Now, some interesting information is that while many of us speak English, you may be interested to know that English is not the most highly spoken language. As a matter of fact, you can see from this slide that Chinese and Spanish are spoken more than English, and English comes in at third place in terms of the languages that are spoken. And when you look overall at all of the different languages that are spoken, Arabic, Hindi, Portuguese, Bengali, Russian, and so on, we find that English is not the most highly spoken language. Yet still, we expect most persons using the internet to use it in English characters. So the whole concept of what we are talking about is that multilingualism is a key to digital inclusion. And this stems from the discussions that have taken place at the World Summit on the Information Society in Geneva, the Declaration of 2003, and the Tunis Agenda. And we're also seeing that now UNESCO, in its recommendations on multilingualism and universal access to cyberspace, has asked to reduce and alleviate these language barriers for users on the internet. And similarly, and more recently, the Global Digital Compact has been asking to make digital technologies more accessible and also affordable to everyone. That then takes us to the crux of my presentation here today. My role today is really to explain to those who are not familiar with universal acceptance, those who are not familiar with internationalized domain names, and those who are not familiar with email address internationalization. My job this morning is to explain these things to you and maybe in a sense demystify some of the terms that you're hearing. Rest assured, if I use any acronym that you don't understand, please put up a red flag or say something in the chat so we can explain that to you. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about the domain name system, also referred to as the DNS, and where ICANN fits in. We are looking at two items essentially: domain names, maybe sagicor.com, or internationalized email addresses, which are in foreign language scripts. Those are the two areas that we're looking at. And domain names and addresses on the internet actually identify websites, and the domain name system, as you see on this slide, ICANN.org, actually converts the domain names into IP addresses. So every domain name has a corresponding IP address, Internet Protocol address. But as human beings, it's not easy for us to remember all of these IP addresses. So we use the domain names. So collectively, domain names and IP addresses help us to navigate the internet. And ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, is the global not-for-profit, the global organization that coordinates this unique system of identifiers. So in the past and historically, top-level domain names have been merely 2 or 3 characters. Some examples of those are .com, .org, and so on. And while we started off with those top-level domain names, the domain name system has evolved over time, and now we are allowing newer and longer top-level domain names.
Ese PowerPoint, puede hacer la presentación por ahí. Daniel, haga una prueba, por favor.
Okay, I'm hearing some background speaking in Spanish. Are we clear with that? Okay, I think,
Yes,
I
go
think-
ahead.
yeah, I think that has been sorted out. So what we are saying now is that the domain name system has evolved, it has expanded. So now we don't only accept domain names with the traditional .com, .org, .edu, but we are now able to accept domain names in foreign language scripts like Chinese and Arabic, as you see in this slide, and also domain names that represent communities, that represent brands, for example, .london, .photography, and so on. So the internet is changing, and this expansion in the domain name system allows a more multilingual usage of the internet. And we see on this slide some examples of where we were pre-2009 with the traditional top-level domain names. We see that beyond 2009, we have internationalized domain names in and email addresses also in country codes. And then what happened was a very tremendous expansion in 2012, where over 1,200 new generic top-level domain names were introduced into the internet. And some of the examples of those top-level domain names are the generic ones, like .technology, .bar, .globe, .car, .bank, .london, .photography, and so on. And we also have some of those top-level domain names that are internationalized, and you see the examples here on the screen. This particular slide is interesting, and it indicates that there are now 61 internationalized domain name country code top-level domain names. What are our country codes? Typically .tt for Trinidad and Tobago, .bb for Barbados, .lc for St. Lucia. So what you are seeing on this slide are actually country code top-level domain names that have been internationalized. And you can see the complete list at that link that is showing up on there. Also, there have been internationalization of generic top-level domain names. And this slide that you are seeing right now shows several internationalized top-level domain names. And you can tell because most of them are in foreign language characters, foreign to us who speak English, but you have Chinese, Arabic, Russian, and so on, several examples. So similar to domain names, there has also been an evolution in email addresses. Initially, email addresses were not available in local language scripts, but email address internationalization has now allowed this to take place. So just as you will see domain names in foreign language scripts, you can now also see email addresses in foreign language scripts. And here are some examples of internationalized domain names. See the languages: Armenian, Oriya, Gregorian, Korean, Malayalam, and Arabic. Now, these are just a few examples, but you also have some examples, as you're seeing here, of internationalized email addresses. And if you look carefully at this slide, you should be able to identify the @ sign, which we use in English language scripts. And if you look carefully in the Armenian, the Chinese, the Devanagari, the @ sign seems to be closer to the left side. But if you look at the Arabic email address, you would notice that the @ sign seems to be closer to the right side, because in Arabic, you actually read from right to left. And you notice that the @ sign is closer to the right side, but the dots are closer to the left side. So here we have a situation where somebody who's reading in Arabic characters would feel at home with this email address because it is exactly as they would read normally. And then you also see examples there of Greek email addresses and Tamil email addresses. And the important thing to understand is that all of these email addresses and the top-level domain names work perfectly on the internet. They've been tested, they are in use, and they work perfectly until we get to the issue of universal acceptance, which we will talk about in a minute. And well, we'll talk about it right now. And here is the challenge of universal acceptance. While the internet allows for multilingual domain names and multilingual email addresses, the problem is that while these email addresses and domain names work properly on the internet, they are not accepted by all systems. So you may try to use a system to register for a magazine or to book at a hotel in St. Vincent or St. Lucia, and you may type in an Arabic email address that works perfectly on the internet, but you may get a message saying invalid email address. Not because the Arabic email address does not work on the internet, but because the system, which is supposed to be accepting this email address for registration, is not designed and built to accept internationalized domain names and internationalized email addresses. That is the problem. And here we have some examples of email addresses and websites that may get this whole message saying invalid domain name or invalid email addresses. And you see them on the screen. All of these work fine on the internet, but you try to put them into certain systems and you will get an error message saying invalid email address. So the Universal Acceptance Steering Group has done some studies on the acceptance of scripts from different languages. And what you're seeing on this slide is an indication of what has been found. For example, low levels of acceptance for Korean and Japanese script, a little bit better for Israeli and Kuwait scripts. Pretty good acceptance. When you say pretty good, just over 20% for India and Chinese scripts, but basically low levels of acceptance across the board, because all of these are just over 20% of these international scripts. And also this particular slide shows that out of the 33.7 million email servers tested in January of this year, only 25% show support for internationalized email addresses. So the situation is not where we would like it to be globally. There are still the majority of email servers and web servers that do not accept internationalized domain names and internationalized email addresses. So if you wanted to check to see whether your system actually accepts internationalized email addresses or domain names, this is a website that you could go to actually check, uasg.tech/EAI-check. So you can check for yourself whether your system is UA acceptable. And of course, because many of these systems do not accept internationalized email addresses and domain names, we are missing out on an opportunity. There are 5.5 billion roughly users globally, but the remaining 32% of the world population, approximately 2.6 billion, will be coming on in languages that are not English. Remember, English is only the third most spoken language on the internet. So if we want to take advantage by doing business with some of these people who are coming on in different languages to English and having different websites, we really need to make our systems universally acceptance ready. So while the domain name system has evolved, many of the checks and balances that are in place have not evolved in the same way. In addition, not all online portals are primed to accept universal acceptance. They're not all universal acceptance ready. And as a result, what we need to do is achieve universal acceptance so that every domain name and every email addresses will be accepted by all of the systems on the internet. So the goal of universal acceptance and its impact is that all valid domain names and email addresses work in all software and applications. And to do this, essentially, several groups have a role to play in promoting consumer choice and improving competition and providing broader access to users. Universal acceptance can help in these key areas by supporting multicultural and multilingual internet, as we said at the beginning, by allowing more trust and freedom of expression in the local languages across the globe. Of course, we've said this many times, by enabling greater competition and innovation, and of course, creating more social and business opportunities, as I said earlier. And you see the other opportunities and the other reasons why universal acceptance matters. So today, the internet has a population of 5.5 billion active users, with billions more expected to come online. Most of the world does not speak English. They speak other languages such as Arabic, Ethiopic, Chinese, Cyrillic, and other scripts. And by being universally acceptance ready, there are several other economic and social benefits that we would be able to accept. So here is the crux. What is behind, and what do we have to achieve in making an application universal acceptance ready? The user has to be able to input characters in a foreign language script. When validation is done, it has to be successful. In other words, we should not get an email, we should not get an error message saying this is an invalid domain name or an invalid email address. The application system itself, if we're registering for a magazine or trying to purchase an item, should be able to process that internationalized domain name. Of course, the domain name and the email address should be able to be stored and then finally displayed. These are the 5 core areas of making an application universal acceptance ready. And there is a group called the UASG, the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, which has been working for quite some time globally to make applications universal acceptance ready. ICANN has been actively promoting universal acceptance. Of course, ICANN is the organization that I am with, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. That organization which coordinates the domain name system, the DNS. And ICANN has been working very closely with the UASG in organizing outreach like what we are doing here today, in conducting detailed studies to identify the gaps, in determining solutions to address the gaps, and also by submitting bug reports and relevant tools and systems to aid with universal acceptance. And down at the bottom of this slide, you see the web addresses for the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, uasg.tech, and also for ICANN's subweb on universal acceptance, icann.org/UA. So the question now becomes, who can help achieve universal acceptance? And as I said, there are several groups that can work towards universal acceptance. The technical community, email and software providers, government and policymakers, and of course, academia, which is our focus today. Because with academia, university programs can start offering universal acceptance curricula in areas where they currently have IT-related certificate programs and degree programs. So while the technical community, the programmers, the developers, the email and service providers and policymakers have a big role to play, today we are focusing on how universities and academic institutions can actually bring this problem to the awareness of university students and start talking about how the problem can be solved. So in each of these areas that I've just mentioned, there are specific steps that can be taken to deal with universal acceptance. I wouldn't go into all of the detail here, but just to give you a sense, this is what this slide shows what business can do to address universal acceptance. This slide shows what government can do to help with universal acceptance. And I think the deck is going to be made available by Chrislyn to everyone who's interested in going through it in more detail. Civil society also has a role to play. But this is the all-important slide, which which shows how academia can actually contribute to improving the situation with universal acceptance. So academia can upgrade their own email systems to support email address internationalization. Academia can update their IT curricula to include teaching and learning on IDNs, universal acceptance, and software based on internationalization's concepts. And ICANN actually has a whole set of curriculum related to universal acceptance, which other speakers will be talking more about a little bit later today. The faculty at universities can start getting familiar with UA practices so that we can create an awareness of universal acceptance issues and solutions in the technical community. So technical community, of course, we said, has to make sure that internationalized domain names and internationalized email addresses can be accepted, validated, processed, stored, and displayed. So there are also roles for other organizations, but I just wanted to touch a little bit before I close on efforts by UNESCO and ICANN for promoting digital inclusion. UNESCO is conducting multiple programs to promote multilingualism online. And this is where ICANN, working with UNESCO to launch the next round of generic top-level domains, will be promoting digital inclusion. The next round is a round where new domain names can come into the root of the internet. And of course, these can also come in internationalized characters. And we will hear a little bit more today about what UNESCO is doing and what ICANN is doing in this area. For example, UNESCO is setting standards in this area with regard to multilingualism. UNESCO is also advocating for a more diverse and linguistic internet. And this stems from discussions at WSIS, Action Line C8. Those of you who are familiar with the WSIS documentation. And also UNESCO is partnering with the Internet Governance Forum under the theme Language and Inclusion, Multilingual Names. And ICANN is also working with UNESCO to build capacities to empower communities to produce linguistically diverse content. And of course, both UNESCO and ICANN are working with partners to support grassroots initiatives, collaborating with tech companies to develop keyboards, for example, in indigenous languages. And these are the four core areas of UNESCO's work, developing a multilingual content and systems, facilitating access to networks and services, development of public domain content, and reaffirming equitable balance between interests of rights holders and public interests. So these are the core, some of the core areas that UNESCO is making inputs into the whole universal acceptance to cyberspace theme. And I encourage you to make contact with your local UNESCO representatives. I don't know if they are on this call, but you can also, collaborate with them in trying to promote universal acceptance. And we are now seeing the International Decade of Indigenous Languages from 2022 to 2032. And this is a UNESCO sponsored initiative drawing attention to the critical loss of indigenous languages and the urgent need to preserve, revitalize, and promote indigenous languages. And many islands of the Caribbean actually have indigenous languages which UNESCO is working to preserve. And UNESCO serves as a lead agency for the International Decade in collaboration with UNDESA and other relevant agencies. And this is some further information on the work of UNESCO, but feel free to scan this QR code, which will be in the slide deck, and also go to the website to find out more about what UNESCO is doing with regard to the World Atlas of Languages. Now, I think I'm coming close to my time. My 20 minutes is up, I believe. And I just wanted to mention two programs in ICANN, which I'm sure persons in St. Vincent, some persons are familiar with, the ICANN Fellowship Program and the ICANN Next Gen Program. So you do have ICANN Fellows and Next Geners in St. Vincent, but these are simply programs that ICANN has in place, which facilitate individuals who are not able to afford to travel to an ICANN meeting to actually participate in person. And the Next Gen program is for university students, and the fellowship program can be applied to by any person in any part of the world. So finally, I encourage you all to get involved with universal acceptance. And for more information, you can actually send an email to info@uasg.tech or to the UA program at icann.org. And of course, you have the two email addresses that I already mentioned here on the slide, and the slides will be available to everyone. So Decima, that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. And if we have maybe 1 or 2 minutes, I'll be happy to take any questions if there are any available. I'm looking in the chat and I don't actually see any questions in the chat, but I would be happy to take any questions that you have in the room. And just a comment to the technical folk. I noticed during the introduction that it was a bit difficult to hear everybody's introduction clearly. So if we are going to take questions from the floor and from the room, perhaps if we have a wireless mic that we can take to everyone, it may be easier and we would be able to hear the questions a bit clearer. So Decima, back to you, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Could we please give Mr. Albert Daniels a round of applause? So it was a lot. So I know you need to understand a little bit more of what Albert said. So I know you have a lot of questions. One of the things that stood out to me is that only 25% of systems show any support for UA. So it means we have a lot of work to do. We have 5.5 billion internet users, and English is not the first language, but while it may not be their only their first language, interestingly, most people try to do a little bit of English. Maybe that's why the things are the way they are. And it's time to change that. So of 8.1 billion people, 5.5 billion users. And for me, as somebody who is into development, that's a bit troubling. So it's suggesting that at least 1/3 of the population doesn't have access to the internet. I do not know what the number is. Here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I don't know if Marcellus knows what it is in terms of access to the internet. But Albert, one of the things you spoke about, if you can pull back up the slide that speaks about the goal. And for me, that makes, of course, I would latch on to that. Okay, it says,
Are you
okay.
seeing the slides?
Yes, I will read it though.
Yeah,
Valid,
let me go to it. Is it this one?
yes.
Mhm.
And your goal, it says all valid domain names and email addresses work in all software applications, excuse me, please. And the impact is to promote consumer choice, improve competition, and provide broader access to end users. And it is an important goal that we need to strive for. The other thing that you spoke about, you said UA can help in that it supports a diverse, multilingual, multicultural internet. And that's in line with what Simone said when she gave her welcome remarks. And it allows more trust and freedom of expression, enables greater competition, innovation, and consumer choice. It creates social and business opportunities, offers career advantages for developers and system administrators, and it assists government and policymakers in communicating with their citizens. So it is an important thing, and it is good that it is being addressed even as we speak. And you also spoke about the role of academia, which we are now pitching directly to the students and the SBGCC and my alma mater, Girls High School. And I hope you were in Staff House, my dear.
Hello.
Which house were you in? What? What can I say? I say no more. So it is important for us. So the floor is open, but I want to start the ball rolling. Albert, so my first question to you, can you share examples of how users have been excluded or disadvantaged because the system wasn't UA ready?
Yes, that's a pretty good question. And we used to have some slides in this deck which showed this. I mean, I'll give the example of the Caribbean. Tourism is a very big economic activity in most Caribbean states. People want to travel to our countries, and they need to register to stay in hotels, and they need to book airlines, and they also need to book tours and activities. Can you imagine, large numbers of people wanting to visit us from China or from India or from any country that uses, from Saudi Arabia, that wants to come and invest in our countries, and they try to put in their email address, which actually works. And then when they type it in, they get a message saying invalid email address. That is a big problem, and it's an economic problem, because what happens is the country loses out on a potential significant economic opportunity. Similarly, if we are trying to get access to services and to products that are available by persons who are using different scripts, internationalized scripts, and we type in our browser or in our system those international scripts, our system may come back and say, not accessible, not available, error. And this is another example of where you essentially are cutting individuals, cutting organizations, cutting whole countries in some cases out of the internet activity, simply because you have not designed or upgraded your system to meet the evolution that has taken place with the domain name system. The domain name system has evolved. It has gone beyond just having domain names with 3 characters, .com, .org, .edu. We now have longer ones, .education, .university and so on. And the systems that are being used on the back ends of websites need to be able to accept these evolved domain names and evolved email addresses. So I hope that those two examples answer your question.
Yes, it does. And as I hinted in terms of the geopolitical situation we are now in, it would make sense, even as we pursue other opportunities, economic opportunities outside our traditional partners. So it would make a lot of sense. And I have one more before I open up the floor. And if none, so I'm hoping that you ask, huh? I'm depending on you. Miss Staff, you have to ask questions, eh? Is there any collaboration between ICANN and mobile network providers to promote UA on mobile devices?
Yes, the Universal Acceptance Steering Group is collaborating with many organizations that I have not listed here. For example, we all know the big companies like Microsoft, Google, and so on. These companies have actually come on board with the Universal Acceptance Steering Group. And in the same way, the Universal Acceptance Steering Group is open to collaborating with any partner who's interested in solving this problem. And telcos and mobile providers are also included in there. But you see, there must be a sort of two-way interest. The UASG and ICANN and UNESCO are interested in solving this problem. But what we are doing now with this awareness building is trying to reach out. You as the end user, you need to go to your telcos and say to them, look, are your systems universally acceptance ready? Because somebody was trying to send me an email and they're saying they're not getting through. So all of us have a role to play in solving this problem. Yes, the developers, the system providers and so on have a major role to play. And the Universal Acceptance Steering Group is happy to collaborate with anyone who can help solve this problem.
Yeah. Thank you. So the floor is now open. So if anyone has a question, please come forward and ask the question so persons online will be able to hear us. I see my young man is ready. Come. I know that can be the only one.
Hi, good day. My name is Matthew Dishang. What I would like to know, because this is an admirable goal, is there a plan of action? If so, what are the challenges it would impose to first program this and then mass implement it?
Thank you very much, Matthew. As Simone may have indicated, or maybe it was Decima, we are only scratching the surface this morning. And there is a complete strategy, there's a complete operational plan that is available on the Universal Acceptance Steering Group. I mean, down to the level of detail, for example, of saying, well, look, if you're talking to governments, here is the text that can be used when the governments are doing procurement. Because, you know, governments give out contracts all the time. They may give out a contract to actually develop a system. And the plan and the strategy goes in as much detail as giving you the text or actually saying to, in your RFP, your request for proposals, how you should indicate that you want somebody to be universal acceptance ready, or you want a system to be universal acceptance ready. So all of that is available on the UASG website. There are many documents that you can use to help in different areas, business, academia, and so on. What you will hear later on is that there is already curriculum designed for universities. So the simple answer to your question is yes, there is a strategy available. And the main challenge I see with this is in getting outreach done to the people who are able to promote this, talking to you, how easy it is to get a group like yourselves in a room together to talk about universal acceptance. Do you have other priorities that would preclude you from actually paying attention to universal acceptance? Are the developers spending more time on writing new code and less time on thinking about universal acceptance? So the challenge really is more of a human challenge, in my opinion, with regard to getting to the percentage levels of acceptance that we need to be. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is O'Neill Sprott. My question to you is, why is it, do you think, or what is the reason that UA or universal acceptance has taken so long? Because as you mentioned, countries like China are economic powerhouses. They're very important when it comes to trade. Other countries are very reliant on China. Let's use that as an example. Why is it that now in 2025, we're only, so to speak, at 26% when it comes to acceptance on servers?
That also is a very good question. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we in the English-speaking part of the globe really don't pay attention to problems that others are having in other areas. And you mentioned, O'Neill, that China is an economic powerhouse. And this is part of the reason why this problem is now coming to the attention of the broader global community, simply because there are attempts to use Chinese email addresses in your example. There are attempts for systems to be able to accept Chinese domain names in websites. And the problem is now being realized, it's now being identified that here it is that you have all these new email addresses and these new domain names, but all of a sudden when we try to use them, we are getting error messages. So there's this lag because people will struggle and say, well, okay, it's not accepting my Chinese email address, I will use English. And there's sort of an acceptance that, okay, let me find a sort of plaster for the sore, as it were, rather than come to the real crux of a proper solution, which is simply getting the systems being able to accept, validate, process, store, and display the email address in foreign scripts. So it is because the problem is being identified by some of these countries like China that there's now this global move with ICANN and other organizations to deal with this problem in the way that it should be dealt with.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, good morning. My name is Shiloh Robertson. You mentioned some benefits of universal acceptance. So my question is, what issues could possibly arise once universal acceptance has been achieved?
Okay, so I would be very happy to hear that universal acceptance has been achieved, because what it means then is that we are able to take advantage of the economic opportunities, the social opportunities that universal acceptance brings. Once universal acceptance has been achieved, then you back down to having the normal issues that you will find dealing with the internet. You know, the usual issues of cybersecurity, which is another area that we're dealing with, the usual issues of malware and so on, which are constant challenges. So it would be a good problem to have universal acceptance at 100% and then dealing with these other issues. So let's work, and I'm happy to hear that you feel that the 100% universal acceptance is something that is achievable. Let's work towards that. And then when the other problems come, we deal with them as usual, but I expect them to be the regular issues that we face using the internet regularly.
Thank you.
Thank you, young ones. The floor is still open, but in the meantime, we have a question from Rodney Taylor in Barbados. His question is, beyond awareness building, does ICANN provide any support to assist SMEs in developing countries to build capacity to be UA ready?
Okay, so Decima, you fell in the trap. You use the acronym when I explained my acronyms. The acronym that you used is SME, and I can tell you in the United States that acronym doesn't mean small to medium enterprises, which I think is what you meant. It actually means subject matter experts. So 1 for me, 0 for you. But the point I wanted to make in response to Rodney's question, and by the way, I saw Rodney in Trinidad just 2 days ago. There are different stages of universal acceptance, as Chrislyn will say to you. The very first stage is generating awareness. And after you have generated awareness, the next stages include getting down to brass tacks with the technical aspects of developing the systems and actually solving the problems from a technical standpoint. And Rodney, in answer to your question, the answer is yes. The Universal Acceptance Steering Group and ICANN do provide support to small and medium enterprises to along the path of solving this problem of universal acceptance. There is a plethora of material available, and the Universal Acceptance Steering Group has some capacity to actually do hand-holding with organizations. We can do the usual things, webinars and so on, and perhaps helping with implementations to assist small and medium enterprises. So some of that is available. We are only now here at the first stage of doing the awareness. And I think I see Lance's hand raised, Lance Hines from Guyana.
So he can go ahead and ask his question.
Thank you, Chair. This is Lance Hines for the record. It is not so much a question, but to kind of back up both Rodney's question and Albert's response. One of the things as we talk about universal access and even ICANN in general is the need to establish the connection in terms of what is the overall benefit of UA, what is the overall benefit of ICANN to communities like ours, to countries like ours and stuff like that. So as much as possible, we have to establish the nexus between these things. How does it help the SMEs? That's a critical question that should be looked at. How it helps academia, how it helps the development of our skill sets to be able to actively participate in ICANN. So all of those things are important, and all of those things are going to be critical that you participate in that at either an advocacy level or a practitioner level to ensure that particularly universal acceptance is taken on and is successful. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, and I agree with Lance 100%. There must be a connection between all these acronyms and all these terms and the actual day-to-day economic and social situation, and how a topic like universal acceptance can impact the social and economic situation.
Okay. Thank you, Lance and Rodney, from our virtual participants. And Albert, you said 1 for you and 0 for me. That was not my question. I was just reading it. And interestedly, so it's still 1 to me and 0 for you.
Okay. Or 0 for Rodney, sorry.
Well, maybe. But you're right. I thought SMEs was, see that is through the lens of development. I thought it was small and medium. I said, this makes sense. from within that context, a small and medium enterprise, that if they were going to get any sort of guidance and help from, from the USG or whomever, to prepare them for that, but that was not the question. So, another one? Oh, Donette, could you please go ahead with your question?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Very
I can
well.
hear you.
Okay, what I wanted to comment in regards to universal acceptance. Normally, when you are taught at schools, you know, English is a universal language, so we just normally program everything and assume everyone would have to fall in line. But thanks to organizations like ICANN for kind of open up your eyes to realize it's not only about you, you have to think about other countries that have so many various languages within one country. So what St. Vincent is currently doing, because our we have a lot of persons coming in from outside who are of different origin. For example, Chinese. They come in, but they have a child in St. Vincent and they want to name their child in a Chinese language. So St. Vincent is in the process of different types of name and languages so that it could actually be in the electoral system. So you could have your name on your ID, not just in English. You could have it in your language. So we are moving there, but thanks to the awareness that we have been built from different organizations such as ICANN, we can move to there slowly but surely.
Very good comment, Donette.
Thank you, Donette. Any other question from the floor? Because I have one more question that I want to ask you, Albert. Other than ICANN and the USG, do you have any other organizations that deal with standards that is involved in promoting UA?
Okay, I think the slide that I had earlier, which indicated our collaboration with UNESCO, would speak to standards. And UNESCO itself is actually working in this area to actually, the 2003 recommendation concerning promoting the use of multilingualism and universal acceptance of cyberspace is something that UNESCO is looking at very carefully because of WSIS and because of wanting to build capacities to empower communities to produce linguistically diverse content. We now see that it's no longer a situation where it's only ICANN and only the Universal Acceptance Steering Group who is interested in this topic of universal acceptance, but we have a major international partner in the person of UNESCO, which is also trying to work in this area. I'm not aware of any other standards bodies that are actually doing work in this area, but I know for certain UNESCO has taken this up, taken up the mantle of universal acceptance, and they are doing some work with standards bodies to see how this can be implemented.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, Albert, governments, okay, so we know it's being pushed. How receptive have governments been in terms of UA?
I've had some experience with CARICOM, where very specifically this text that I made an example of, that is put in to request for proposals, asking new systems to be universal acceptance ready. As a result of my position on one of the CARICOM subcommittees in COTED, I was able to have this text go in as a suggestion to the governments of the Caribbean, basically for them to put it in when they are putting out requests for proposals, that the systems being designed should be universal acceptance ready. And I've found the CARICOM, first of all, and the governments of the Caribbean to be fairly receptive to wanting to solve this problem. Because when you point out to governments that there is a tremendous economic opportunity that is being missed out on because of the lack of universal acceptance, or there's an economic opportunity at a company level in countries because people can't register to stay in your hotels and so on, then, you know, that's the bottom line. And anytime you have an initiative that affects the bottom line, people tend to listen. And I've found that with the governments of the Caribbean, they have been listening, and they have in most cases, you know, been receptive to the universal acceptance message. But we can always do more.
Because if you don't have the buy-in by the government, it may, I mean, it can be done, but it always helps, I find, to have that political support.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the floor? So we had 2 young men and 1 female. We need some gender. Oh, come up, my friend. And there's another question online. Okay, we'll take the question online after you come.
So, hello again. As one of the representatives would have mentioned earlier, it's not really a question related to you, but a more personal question. It was mentioned that you would have pioneered the introduction of the internet to St. Lucia in 1993. So can you tell us about that?
I can maybe give you the 30-second version, but that story will take an entire day. In very simple terms, someone came to me to organize a conference, and they said they needed, you know, some computers, because I was with an organization that actually did computer training. And at the end of it, they had a conversation with me, and they said that they wanted to introduce this thing called the internet to St. Lucia, and they had not had the kind of success that they were having, that they had expected in trying to work with certain government agencies and so on. And typically they had had better success with not-for-profit agencies like the one where I was executive director. So they asked whether I would be interested in trying to move this forward. And when I said yes, of course, you know, excited about new technology, they left me with a 38,400 baud modem. I don't know if any of you remember those modems. They make a sound like the fax sound when they are connecting to the internet. And he also left me with a 5.25-inch floppy diskette, which had some software on it. And he told me, you know, try to see if you can get a computer to connect to the University of Puerto Rico, and then people will be able to actually call into you and leave messages. And then at midnight, you know, your computer would be able to call the University of Puerto Rico and send those messages out onto something called the internet. So in the end, I got that set up and it was working. And believe it or not, only one person could have connected in St. Lucia at a time by calling into that one number. And then eventually, a few months later, the Commonwealth of Learning gave us 3 more modems, and they agreed to send inbound traffic to us rather than us having to pay for the long distance charges to Puerto Rico. And that was a level of expansion which got more people using the internet. And then finally, those users who were on the internet actually decided that they would put pressure on the local telecoms provider to bring full internet connectivity, not just dial-up connectivity, to St. Lucia. So in a very, very, very small and abbreviated nutshell, that is the story of the internet coming to St. Lucia.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew. You're my best friend for today. So he won the prize. See, there may have been a prize and none of you asked. Okay, so Albert, so this question is coming from Oren Joseph, and I'm just reading it. Is the EAI checker available? I don't know if I'm saying REST. If it isn't, that's my disclaimer, in REST API form, or is it just the web interface?
I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head, but that is something that you can simply send an email to the UASG, the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, and we can follow up. Or you can also send me an email, and I can find out for you whether it's available on the REST API.
Okay. Any other questions from the floor or online? No? Oh, yeah.
I see some comments in the chat. you know, that some of our attendees may not be familiar with what a modem is and so on. So if you go into any internet museum or check online, you'll be able to find out what a 2400 baud modem is. And some of the other things that I mentioned, which were back in it wasn't so long ago, if you think about it, 1993. This is how fast technology moves. But please, Ms. Robertson, I think it is, you can ask your question or make your comment.
Yes, please. Do you think stereotypes have anything to do with the attitude, well, the negative attitudes towards universal acceptance?
Well, now you're taking me a little bit out of scope. One of the things that you will learn about ICANN is we have a very, very, very narrow scope with regard to what we do, even when it comes to cybersecurity. When there are broader discussions on cybersecurity, we talk specifically about DNS security. So this particular point that you're raising, I think in all fairness, I would have to, from a personal standpoint, have to say that yes, stereotypes always play a part in everything that we do. And you know, the amount of attention that's given to solving a particular problem may have something to do, as you're saying, with concepts about, you know, persons coming from certain parts of the world, persons speaking different languages, and so on. So I from a personal standpoint, I am certain that may play a part, but that would be outside the scope of the work that we're doing with universal acceptance. I don't know if Lance or Claire or anybody else would like to comment on that.
Thank you.
I see Lance's hand raised. Maybe he may want to say something about that.
Lance, please.
You know, that is a very good question. It really is. I remember when we went, this would have been about 2004, I think, 2005, when we went to Argentina to create what would have been the Latin American and Caribbean at large organization. And I went there as a techie, as a software developer. And after spending those 2 days and going to my first ICANN meeting in Brazil, I think it would have been about 2006, I then began to realize, oh, whoa, this is a far larger beast than I expected. And really in those days, in reference to your question, we had no real connection to this. We had no real connection to ICANN in terms of what ICANN did. Now realizing what ICANN did behind the scenes, behind the scenes as an organization, making sure that the internet is up and running 24/7. For the 20 years that we have been, a few of us have been practicing this, it really has been rarefied earth in terms of those who know a little more, and then you have the rest of the population who would stay in IT, but really on the front end. And when you talk about the social side and stuff like that, it's really a function of people not necessarily willing to take that next step because it seems complex, it seems complicated, and quite frankly, it seems white, to be quite frank, in those days. And now it is for us to break those same barriers that you talk about, with you being here today, with you and your colleagues and your young colleagues getting more and more familiar with ICANN. In particular, the work being done with universal access is really going to reduce those barriers and the same question that you asked, because that is one of the fundamental principles of the UA. Digital inclusion, regardless of location. ICANN understands that they want to reach the next billion, but they don't speak English. They're not white. They're, they have different perspectives, different beliefs. And so it is how UA, even though ICANN has a limited mandate, as Albert says, it is still how ICANN works with other stakeholders to be able to get that, to reach that ultimate objective. So the question that you ask is, it may sound indirect, but it is extremely pertinent within the entire rubric of what we want to do with universal access, especially in the Caribbean. We are small island states primarily. our economies are changing. We have to find different things to do in order to survive. And so as we look in universal access, we're going to have to think as widely as the question that you asked. Thank you for the question.
Lance, could you please repeat the last statement you made? We didn't hear it. We lost connection.
Did you hear? Thank you for the question.
Yeah. We did, and we heard you went to Argentina as a techie, and you said some other things, but the last piece,
all I was saying, I was going back to the importance of the question. I was going back to what is the ICANN remit, which is to establish universal access. But as I was saying, ICANN obviously has a limit to the remit, and it is the other organizations that work with them to make sure that they solve the issue that you solve the issue and the question that you raised. All right, so that's all I was saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so thank you very much. And I'm not sure if there are any other burning questions that anyone wants to ask in person or online. If there is none, you have lost your opportunity at this stage. And we thank Albert Daniel for keeping us interested. Very interesting topic, Albert, very interesting introduction on the tip of the iceberg. And so we see where we go from there. So I think we should show appreciation to Albert.
I can't hear the applause, but thank you very much.
And all the others who asked questions. You certainly made it entertaining. In some instances, you made it enlightening, and it was certainly an enriching experience for me. And I'm hopeful that it was for you as well. So it's not on your agenda, but we are going to invite Claire Craig. She is the research director of the Caribbean Network of, what did you again? Network Operators Group, better known as CaribNOG. And she is also the co-vice chair of the at-large committee. Community. So, Claire, it's over to you for brief remarks.
Sure. Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Claire Craig, and I am pleased to just bring a few remarks coming after Albert this morning. Is, not an easy feat, but I will try to do my best. I just wanted to thank St. Vincent and the Grenadines Internet Society chapter for hosting this UA Day. As they said at the beginning, it's the second one that is being hosted by St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I congratulate them on this effort. I particularly would like to congratulate Chrislyn for the work that she is doing in this area. She's really making the Caribbean very proud. Chrislyn, Albert mentioned in his introduction the fellowship program, and Chrislyn was a member of that fellowship program. So was Donnell. Donnell was actually at the last ICANN meeting, ICANN 82 in Seattle. And this is a really good opportunity for many of you to think about attending and think about contributing. Because of attending that, Chrislyn became the Universal Acceptance Ambassador for the Caribbean, and we are so proud of that achievement. Last year, when St. Vincent and the Grenadines hosted this event, it was an introductory session. And some of the things that they spoke about were things that Albert spoke about and questions that you all raised, which were dealing with how can we become universally ready? And one of the experiments that they did in the room was have people check to see whether their websites were universally ready. This year, the theme is on UA integration in academia, which is moving one step further. And while all the questions that were asked were outward looking and looking at governments and looking at SMEs and different contributors, as some of the Gen Zs and possibly, I'm not sure if there are any Gen Alphas in the room, some of you may be asking yourselves, what's in this for me? And one of the things that Albert spoke about was the opportunities for career advances in software developers. And if that is an interest for some of you in the room, then even if there aren't opportunities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because this is a global initiative, it is an opportunity where you can get involved. You can stay, the technology has become so pervasive, so easily available that you can stay in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and work with persons who are trying to make their systems universally acceptable in different parts of the world. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to share that with you and to help you to understand that there are ways that you can participate in ICANN by being a fellow, as well as Albert also spoke about becoming a next gen, which happens when ICANN is in our region. So thank you. I myself started as a fellow in ICANN, and then I became the secretary of the Latin America and the Caribbean at-large organization, which Lance Hines is the incoming chair this year. And then I went on to be the vice chair of the At-Large Advisory Council, which provides advice to the ICANN board. So let's keep the Caribbean actively involved. I know Albert will be very happy to provide any support that you need in making that happen. And I do wish Chrislyn, Simone, and the team an exceptional UA Acceptance Day event. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you all.
Thank you very much for your kind words. So I think we need a little break. I think it has been a bit intense. Don't you all agree? Only my boy Matthew deserves a break. Okay, so we have some things. Oh, Rudy, could you turn on the kettle, please? Like Polly. Thank you. So, but we have some little snack there that you can partake of. And we take a break for about 15 minutes. Where you not the bathroom. I think when I came in, I saw a sign that says bathrooms. So that if you need to use the bathroom outside. And participants, we're taking a 15-minute break, but please come back. Oh yeah, we'll start back at 11. Virtual participants, check us back at 11.
Wadia, Vice Chair of Universal Acceptance Steering Group. Universal Acceptance, or UA, ensures that all domain names and email addresses are accepted and processed correctly by the internet applications and systems. It's about making sure that every domain name and email address, regardless of its script or length, is recognized and fully functional across all digital platforms and services. To me, universal acceptance means inclusivity and accessibility in the digital space. It's about breaking down barriers and enabling users from diverse linguistic and cultural backgrounds to fully participate in the online world without facing technical obstacles. UA has many benefits. It enables users from around the world to access online services and communicate effectively in their native language. It facilitates economic growth and innovation by removing technical barriers that hinder the adoption of new TLDs and domain names in non-Latin scripts. It improves the user experience by reducing instances of email and website rejections or error messages due to UA-related issues. And it strengthens the resilience and stability of the internet by promoting interoperability and compatibility among different systems and platforms. The Rajasthan government initiative to provide a free email address to all citizens, known as Rajmail, is a great example of UA. By offering email address on an IDN Rajasthan.Bharat, the government is ensuring that all citizens, regardless of their linguistic and cultural backgrounds, can utilize and access digital services effectively. The Rajmail initiative serves as a successful case study of universal acceptance implementation at the regional level, demonstrating how government can leverage UA principles to enhance digital accessibility and inclusivity. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Satish and I live in India. This question is often asked as to why is universal acceptance one of the cornerstones of the internet today and for the future. The world is very diverse in terms of languages, writing systems, scripts, and so on. Now, in order for the internet to reflect, to be inclusive of this diversity, it must support different writing systems while creating its unique identifiers such as URLs and domain names and email IDs. Unfortunately, today's internet does not work like this. This is an ideal that is not yet supported. So I would say that all stakeholders, whether it's government or the civil society or business or technical community, should come together to achieve universal acceptance for an inclusive future tomorrow. Thank you.
Many people around the world are currently excluded from experiencing the full benefits of the internet simply because they are unable to use a domain name or email address of choice in their language and script. Universal acceptance is a technical requirement that ensures all valid domain names and email addresses, regardless of language, script, or length, can be used by internet users and accepted by all internet-enabled applications, devices, and systems. Universal acceptance is a gateway to a more inclusive and multilingual internet and is key to unlocking the potential of new GTLDs to foster competition, consumer choice, and innovation in the domain name industry.
My name is Raymond Wanata from Accra, Ghana. I'm the founder and president of PEGIFA. Why is UA important for the African continent to be serious about it? It is very important because Africa is the continent that has the largest number of local languages. Unlike in other continents where they could proudly say they have English as the mainly spoken language, Africa is not the same. We have a lot of different local languages, and it is important we participate in universal acceptance because this will enable us to use our various local languages on the internet with regards to domain names and email addresses. So it is very important for the African continent to be engaged in UA activities. I call on all Africans to play a critical role to ensure their systems are UA compliant and also to engage in the various working groups of UA. And if you want to know more about UA, please visit our website, which is the uasg.tech. Come on board, let's make it work. Thank you.
My name is Manal Ismail, Chief Expert Internet Policies at the National Telecom Regulatory Authority of Egypt. Universal acceptance is crucial for a seamless multilingual experience on the Internet, particularly in this digital era. It is challenging because we need to work on the awareness of both the supply and the demand at the same time, and because it needs very wide deployment before it bears its fruits. But it's definitely worth the effort to make the Internet more inclusive by allowing multilingual and variable length domain names work seamlessly on the Internet. We owe it to those who need it, so please make sure your systems are UA ready and keep the awareness spreading.
I can, with the community members with language expertise, have made a big effort to get ready to bring in the languages they use into the domain name space. Now it's a turn to make sure your systems certainly accept the domain names and the email addresses with all languages. Visit uasg.tech for technical resource and join us for the genuine multilingual Internet.
Universal acceptance ensures all domain names and email addresses work flawlessly across any device or software. This principle has been at the forefront of my advocacy for over 25 years, long before I coined the phrase. The next generation of the Internet is an international one. For a truly inclusive Internet, systems need to recognize the richness of different languages and scripts. Users deserve domain names and email addresses that reflect their identity. Simply put, UA opens the door to the next billion users and is a critical part of digital inclusion.
اسمي منال إسماعيل، كبير خبراء سياسات الإنترنت في الجهاز القومي المصري لتنظيم الاتصالات. القبول الشامل ببساطة هو السماح لأسماء النطاقات متعددة الأطوال واللغات إن هي تشتغل بسلاسة على الإنترنت. والموضوع ده مهم جدا خصوصا في عصر التحول الرقمي اللي احنا فيه، علشان نضمن إنه الإنترنت تكون أكثر شمولا، وإنه المستخدم يقدر يستعمل لغته الأم على الإنترنت بسلاسة. علشان نستفيد فعلا من القبول الشامل محتاجين إن احنا نواجه بعض التحديات، زي إن احنا نزود الوعي عند المستخدم ومقدم الخدمة في نفس الوقت، وإن احنا نطبق القبول الشامل على نطاق واسع جدا. بس في الحقيقة احنا مديونين بده للناس اللي هي محتاجاه، فأتمنى منكم جميعا التأكد من إن أنظمتكم جاهزة للقبول الشامل، وإنكم تستمروا في نشر الوعي.
القبول الشامل هو مبدأ أو متطلب تقني يمكن لكل أسماء النطاقات وعناوين الإنترنت، عناوين البريد الموجودة في الإنترنت، أن تكتب بأي حرف وبأي لغة، وأن تقبل من طرف جميع التطبيقات والأجهزة والبرامج المستعملة في الإنترنت.
നമസ്കാരം, എൻ്റെ പേര് സതീഷ്. ഇൻ്റർനെറ്റിലുള്ള ഡൊമെയിൻ നെയിം സിസ്റ്റം നിയന്ത്രിക്കുന്ന ഐക്യാൻ എന്ന ഒരു സമൂഹത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമാണ് ഞാൻ. ഈ വീഡിയോയിൽ യൂണിവേഴ്സൽ ആക്സെപ്റ്റൻസ് എന്താണെന്നും ഇൻ്റർനെറ്റിൻ്റെ ഭാവിയിൽ അതിന് എത്രത്തോളം പ്രാധാന്യമുണ്ടെന്നും നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം. ലോകത്തിൽ പലതരത്തിലുള്ള ഭാഷകളുണ്ട്, ലിപികളുണ്ട്. ഇൻ്റർനെറ്റ് എല്ലാ ഭാഷയും ഒരേപോലെ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ ഇൻ്റർനെറ്റിലെ യുണീക്ക് ഐഡൻറ്റിഫയേഴ്സ്, അതായത് URLs, ഡൊമെയിൻ നെയിംസ്, ഇമെയിൽ അഡ്രസ്സസ്, ഇതെല്ലാം ഒരേപോലെ തന്നെ പ്രവർത്തിക്കണം. പക്ഷേ ഇന്നത്തെ സിറ്റുവേഷൻ അതല്ല. പല സിസ്റ്റത്തിലും എല്ലാ ലിപികളും ഒരേപോലെ അല്ല പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നത്, ചിലതിൽ പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നേ ഇല്ല. ഇതൊരു വലിയ പ്രശ്നമാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ എല്ലാ സ്റ്റേക്ക് ഹോൾഡേഴ്സ്, സർക്കാരുകൾ, ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി, സിവിൽ സൊസൈറ്റി, പൊതുസമൂഹം, ഇവരെല്ലാവരും ചേർന്ന് ഈ ഒരു പ്രശ്നം പെട്ടെന്ന് പരിഹരിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഇതിനകത്തുനിന്ന് വളരെ തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു ഇൻക്ലൂഷൻ വരുന്നുണ്ട്. എല്ലാവരെയും ഒന്നിച്ച് കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ പറ്റുന്ന രീതിയിലുള്ള പുതിയ തരത്തിലുള്ള ബിസിനസ് പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളുള്ള അങ്ങനത്തെ പല പുതിയ മേഖലകൾ തുറക്കാൻ പറ്റും.
L'acceptance universelle est tout simplement le garant d'un Internet inclusif, multilangue et diversifié, où n'importe quel nom de domaine et adresse email électronique s'écrivent dans n'importe quelle langue, n'importe quel script et n'importe quel caractère.
ICANN は世界中のさまざまな言語の専門家たちと協力して、ドメイン名空間であらゆる言語を使えるようにしました。さあ、次はあなたの番です。 あなたのシステムであらゆる言語のドメイン名と E メールアドレスを
Hello, I'm Tripti Sinha, Chair of the ICANN Board, and I'm delighted to welcome everyone to UA Day, celebration of universal acceptance, as well as the many languages that are spoken and used around the world today. I was born in India, a country rich with linguistic diversity, and spent much of my life moving back and forth between India and the US. As a native Hindi speaker, I understand firsthand how important universal acceptance is to enable the Internet to work the same for everyone, regardless of the language they speak or the script they use. Today, there are more than 5.3 billion Internet users and billions more expected to come online. Most of these new users will be from countries where people speak and write in languages other than English. By achieving universal acceptance in every Internet-enabled device, software application, and system, we can help ensure a more inclusive Internet for both new and existing users. When people can use the language and script of their choice online, they are able to experience the full social and economic power of the Internet. Universal acceptance means that no one is excluded, no one is left behind. Whether you are joining a UA Day event virtually or in person, your contributions are important. By participating in UA Day, being part of the UA community, and making your own systems UA ready, you are helping build a truly global, multilingual Internet. This work is a collective effort of many, and I'm encouraged and inspired by everyone's commitment. I'm especially pleased that many of this year's events are focused on UA adoption, as it shows how far we've come in building support for UA. Thank you to the organizers of this year's UA Day events, to everyone taking part around the world, and to all those who have made this milestone event possible. Together, we are moving closer to making universal acceptance a reality and building one Internet for all. Thank you.
Oh,
All right, there we go.
we are back. So I hope you had a good break and that you are ready to ask questions after our next presenter. Does anybody remember what is the sub-theme of this gathering today? No? All right, well, think about it. So the next presenter would be Chrislyn Goulburn Harry. She's going to present to us an academic curriculum overview, and I will give you Chrislyn's bio. She is an accomplished professional with a unique blend of technical expertise and managerial acumen. Her diverse background and passion for technology and holistic well-being are evident in her academic achievements. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science and Information Technology from the University of Technology in Jamaica, and a Master's degree in Management and Project Management from the University of the West Indies. She worked as a software developer and a part-time lecturer at the SVGCC for 10 years and is now a project IT officer at the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, where she is the National Project Manager for the Vinci Single Window for Trade, which is vSwift. With over 15 years of experience as a project manager and software engineer, Chrislyn has established herself as a driving force in the field. As the founder and CEO of eCaps, a software development business in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, she specializes in crafting cutting-edge solutions, including enterprise web applications, website design, mobile app development, and IT project management. She is the first ICANN Universal Acceptance Ambassador for the Caribbean and a founding member of the Internet Society of St. Vincent and the Grenadines chapter. Her professional achievements are complemented by her deep passion for health, fitness, and holistic wellness, as evidenced by her practice of Taekwondo, in which she holds a remarkable second-degree black belt. Chrislyn's journey involves continuous growth, innovation, and impact. Her technical prowess, leadership, and dedication to well-being make her a true trailblazer in technology and holistic living. Let's welcome Chrislyn.
Thank you, Decima. Good morning to everybody, both in person and also online. I feel like I have a difficult task because I'm going after presenters like Albert Daniels and Dr. Craig, and I'm also going after the break when everybody is kind of, jittery and distracted. But I'm gonna try my best. So it is my pleasure to be here today to participate in the Internet Society St. Vincent and the Grenadines chapter's second annual Universal Acceptance Day. The theme for today is enhancing, Decima just asked it, so the theme for today is enhancing technical curriculum by integrating IDN and UA. And today we're going to explore how we, as educators, curriculum developers, and technologists, can build a more inclusive internet. One where everyone, no matter their language, their script or cultural identity, can access and contribute to the web using their domain names and email addresses in their native language. Universal acceptance, it is a technical topic and it does sound technical, but at its core, it is about equity, opportunity, and connection. And it starts with how we educate the next generation of software engineers and website developers, which is you. During this presentation, we will briefly walk through the evolution of domain names, and that's because Mr. Albert Daniels did that before. But we'll also explore key challenges and solutions, and most importantly, we will dive into a proposed curriculum that you can embed in your existing computer science and IT courses. Whether you're already familiar with UA or hearing about it for the first time, I invite you to be curious, ask questions, and consider how you can take this forward in your academic and professional space. Now, many people around the world are currently excluded from experiencing the full benefits of the internet simply because they are unable to use a domain name or email address in their language or script. Now, let us pause for a moment And think about this for a second. Right now, millions of people across the world are being left out of the full internet experience. And it's not because they don't have access. It's because when they try to use their own language or their script online, the systems just don't support it. Imagine this, that you here in this room trying to create a website for your community, or you're trying to register your name or your business or your brand online. And when you try, you get an error message. Sorry, what you entered is invalid. Your email address is not accepted. When you know that what you entered was actually correct. Now, why does this throw error? It is simply because it doesn't recognize your language. And this is a daily reality for people who use scripts like Arabic, Chinese, Hindi, etc. And that is where universal acceptance comes in. UA is about bridging the gap. It gives all of us, developers, software providers, lecturers, institutions, a chance to create systems that don't just speak English or recognize Latin characters, but ones that truly embrace the diversity of human language. So through universal acceptance, or UA, all those web develop, provide or manage online websites and applications have the opportunity to enable users globally to experience the social and economic power of the internet. While universal acceptance is tech talk, it is also about digital identity and inclusion. It's about giving people the freedom to be seen and heard in their own language online. So today I challenge you, at the end of this session, don't just see universal acceptance as a checklist or a compliance issue, but instead see it as a gateway to digital empowerment for communities, for cultures, and for a more connected world. Universal acceptance is our pathway to making our businesses, services, and also our culture more accessible and more visible to the worldwide global audience. A strong understanding of universal acceptance is a new competitive differentiator every developer should have in their skill set. And I'll just skip down to the last point where it says, UA offers a $9.8 billion opportunity to businesses. So if we are not UA ready, we will be missing out on this opportunity. Now, Albert explained the evolution of the domain name, so this slide looks familiar to you, so I'm not going to go over it. However, it is because of this evolution why we are here today. And yet, despite all the progress that have been made in evolving domain names and having EAIs and IBNs, many websites and applications still don't accept or display these new names and email addresses correctly. They break, or worse, they just block the user entirely. Now, this is what we want to address, because it's not enough for the technology to exist or to only exist. It has to be supported, it has to be implemented, and it also has to be taught in schools. And for us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, this evolution opens the door for local innovation. Imagine registering domain names in your local Creole language or Garifuna language or Garifuna expressions. That inclusion is very powerful. Now, this slide is also familiar from Albert's presentation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in a little bit more details on what exactly it takes to be UA ready. Now, if we want systems to support universal acceptance, there are 5 key things that every application or platform needs to be able to do. First, it must accept. Now, what do we mean by it must accept? Can a user type characters in their language into a text field? For example, someone in SVG enter their name with an accent, like, some person says Andre and there's a tilde over it, right? So can those characters be accepted without being told invalid input? So once we have acceptance, we have checked that first checkbox. Then second, we move to validate. Once a user enters that information, does the software recognize it as valid? Does it say, yes, this is a proper email address or it is a proper domain name? Even if you wrote your whatever you wrote in, say, we have a lot of Taiwanese and Chinese in our region. Even if you wrote it in those characters, would it be validated? And if the answer is yes, and we check that, then we're on our journey to becoming universally acceptance ready. Third is process. After accepting the validation, can the system actually do something with it? Can it send an email, open a profile, or save the entry? Or even when you send an email, you receive an email from an email address that is in a non-Latin character. When you open that email, does it display properly? That means it's been processed. And if you achieve that, then you check that checkbox. Fourth is store. And this is where our databases come into play. Can the system save the information without corrupting it? Unicode characters need to be stored properly using UTF-8 format. Sometimes when as coders, we open some information in our database and we see some squares or question marks or some characters, it just doesn't make any sense. So if that is happening, then we're not storing properly. If we achieve storing these characters properly, then we check that checkbox. And then we move on to display. When someone goes to view that name or email address, is it shown correctly? Is the text displayed right to left if it is Arabic? Is it shown in the original characters or not broken marks, like I said, checkboxes and squares? Now, if any of these steps fail, then we hit a wall. Our system is not universal acceptance ready. They are either excluded. So if we hit any wall for those type of persons, then those persons are either excluded or forced to change their name or identity just to make the system work. Now let's go back to the example of Andre with the tilde. A lot of times if you're creating an email address, you leave out that tilde in it, or you send your name, you type your name and you don't put it in it. That is users changing who they are to make the system work. So what we're trying to do is change the system so that the system works to accept the users. Now, so these 5 actions, accept, validate, process, store, and display, are the foundation of what it means to be UA ready. And they're exactly what we need to teach in our classrooms and build in our systems here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because when developers are trained and our systems are UA ready, our people are ready to thrive in the global world. Now, the key objectives for the academic curricula for UA. So now we have touched on the why of universal acceptance. Why do we need to be UA ready? Why is it important? Now let us talk about the how. If we are really serious about making systems UA ready, we need to start at the foundation, and that of course is education. These, what you're looking at, those 5 things are the key objectives we're proposing for academic institutions here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. First, we need to introduce internationalized fundamentals. And that means understanding Unicode, IDNs, and EAIs. Students need to know how global text works under the hood. Second, we want to make UA practical, not just theoretical. This is where this is where use cases comes in. Accept, validate, store, process, and display. The 5 steps that we just covered, but now what we're going to look, now we have to look at it in programming and database management. Third, students should get hands-on experience using libraries and APIs that handle Unicode and IDNs. This isn't just about learning the definition. So we know we have a lot of acronyms, right? So we have to learn the acronyms, yes, but it's not just about the definitions, like what is IDN and what is APIs, etc. But we need to build and test UA-ready systems. So what we want is our students to start building systems, testing them themselves, so you can have that experience, that practical experience, that hands-on experience. Next, students should be exposed to the official standards and protocols, like the RFCs behind the IDNs and EAIs. So they know how things work at the infrastructure level. Now, I just introduced a new acronym. It's called RFCs. So far you've heard about IDNs and EAIs, but we've never talked about RFCs. So just permit me to get a little bit technical. Now, RFCs, which means request for comments, these are official documents published by the Internet Engineering Task Force, or IETF. They define how different parts of the internet should work. Things like email protocols, domain name systems, and even how we support different languages online. When we talk about IDNs, or internationalized domain names, and EAIs, which are email address internationalization, we're referring to standards written in specific RFCs. For example, RFC 5890-5894 describes the IDNA 2008 protocol for supporting domain names in different scripts. And RFC 6530-6533 defines how email systems can support internationalized addresses. Now, you're not expected to remember all of these codes, but you must at least be familiar with them at some point. So when we talk about students learning the standards, we are saying, give students the chance to understand what's behind the hood. So we're going to try to let students explore the blueprints that make multilingual internet possible. And finally, we want them to learn how to produce test cases, ways to verify that a system actually supports UA. That's a skill set that many developers miss, but it's critical to building globally accessible applications. So the goal here is simple. Give students and future developers the technical, practical, and testing skills they need to make inclusive digital systems from day one. Systems that work for everyone, no matter where they're from or what language they speak. It's not moving, right? Okay, thanks. Now the curriculum design considerations. So we've covered now what students need to learn. So now we're going to talk about how we actually build this into the academic programs, the academic curriculum. And the good news about it is that we do not need to reinvent the wheel. These curriculum design considerations are meant to help institutions incorporate universal acceptance in a way that is practical, flexible, and sustainable. First, we start by covering theoretical knowledge, standards, and best practices. What Unicode is, what IDN is, how email systems are built, and why it all matters. That sets the foundation. We also need to develop practical programming competence. That's point 2. Giving students real-world skills they can use in mobile apps, web development, databases, and also security. And that is where micro-learning modules comes in. Now, these are short, focused lessons that can be dropped right into existing courses. For example, you can add a unit on Unicode handling to an intro to programming course, including something called Punycode exercise in networking modules. Run a lab on email validation with international characters in web development or databases. Instead of creating a brand new course right away, we spread the UA concepts across relevant subjects, and that makes integration much easier. Of course, we can still introduce a new course on advanced topics for students who want to specialize. But the goal here is to start small, stay focused, and make sure every computer science or IT student graduates with at least basic understanding of universal acceptance. That's one way to build the capacity here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, by weaving these concepts into what we're already teaching and making them a part of the norm. Now, let's look at the proposed modules. So we're getting into the heart of the curriculum now. The actual modules we're proposing to teach universal acceptance across different areas of computer science. They are here on the slides. We're proposing the following 12 modules: Unicode Programming Fundamentals, Unicode Advanced Programming, Unicode Data Structures and Algorithms, Unicode in Database Management Systems, introducing internationalized domain names or IDNs, programming with internationalized domain names, email address internationalization, advanced topics for internationalized domain names, programming for email address internationalization, processing IDNs and EAIs in mobile apps, IDN security, and finally, IDN and EAI support in operating systems. Now we're going to do an overview of each module, but it's going to be very high level. I'm not going to go deep into what is expected. All right, so module 1, Unicode Programming Fundamentals. This module will introduce students to the basics of text encoding, specifically moving from ASCII to Unicode. So right now we do use ASCII. So our intention is to start doing that migration so we can start incorporating additional characters that are non-ASCII, and that is Unicode. This is essential to support global languages. So in this section, you would cover topics like what Unicode is and why it matters, how to present characters in code points, working with Unicode strings in programming, storing and retrieving Unicode data from UTF-8 encoded files. And this is a great entry point, especially for students that are doing first year programming courses like Programming 1 or Fundamentals in Programming. So the goal is to build early awareness that text isn't just English from day one. Students learn that their software could work for multiple languages, and that starts with how we handle text behind the scenes. Now, module 2, which is Unicode Advanced Programming, builds on the fundamentals from module 1. So now that students understand what Unicode is and how it works at the basic level, we take it a step further by teaching them how to properly display, compare, and also manipulate text in more complex ways. Some of the key topics could include things such as character glimpse model, which understands the difference between characters, which is the data, and the glyph, which is what is displayed on the screen. Working with text engines, fonts and glitch shapers, normalization, and I'm sure there are IT students in the class, so I'm hopeful that some of these concepts are familiar and you're not being lost in the process. I know it's a little bit technical. So normalization, which we're going to try to make sure that visually identical characters are treated the same in the system. Comparing Unicode strings reliably, introducing bi-directional text, and shape scripts like Arabic and Hebrew, so text that goes in one way or in the next direction. We have to deal with these type of things. Now, this module helps students understand that text rendering isn't universal by default. You have to program with intention. So which means that not because you see it there when you render it, it's going to come up like that. You have to have that mindset that this is what I'm trying to achieve. This module is perfect for courses like advanced programming or object-oriented programming, where students are ready to go deeper into how strings behave at the system level. Now, module 3, which is Unicode in data structures and algorithms. This takes us into the world of data structures and algorithms, obviously, but with a Unicode twist. Here, students learn how to work with text data, not just English, but in any language. So right now, the text data we work with is all in English. We're trying to change that. So now we're working with English and also other languages. And this is within core computer science concepts like arrays, trees, sets, and dictionaries. Key areas to cover would include things like Unicode strings, that's point 2. In common data structures, applying the Unicode collation algorithm to sort text accurately across languages, adopting search algorithms to recognize different forms of the same character, especially when dealing with normalization or accented characters like we mentioned before. Understanding how string comparisons behave when using global scripts. This module is ideal for second-year courses like data structures and algorithms. It reinforces core algorithmic thinking while opening students' eyes to the challenges of working with international text. It's especially important because many real-world applications like search engines or databases need to sort and search text in many different languages. So as you can see, so far we have not been creating any new courses. We're taking the existing courses and we're implementing little pockets of universal acceptance in it to make it easier to digest. Now on to module 4, which is Unicode in database management systems. This module is all about teaching students how to handle Unicode text in databases, which is essential if we want systems to store names, email addresses, or any content in different language without losing or corrupting the data. And what we could cover would include things like how to store Unicode characters in databases, creating tables that accept non-ASCII characters, applying, whoopsies, sorry, my apologies there. Slide. We're at module 4. I can control it. Yeah. Okay. All right, so this is a hands-on module that fits perfectly into database management systems. It ensures that students can build multilingual apps that don't break just because someone's name has an accent or a special character that is non-Latin. And for us here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where we want to grow local tech talent, this module gives our students the skills to build inclusive apps that can scale globally. So module 5, introducing internationalized domain names or IDNs. This is where this module helps students understand how the internet domain name system works, how it was traditionally built around the English alphabet, how it has evolved to support domain names in other scripts and languages. And the key concepts would include the difference between TLDs, GTLDs, CCTLDs, a lot more acronyms, right? So TLD stands for top level domain names. And this is, for example, your .com, .org. Those are top level domain names. But then we also have GTLDs, which is the generic top level domain names, the ones that you are accustomed to right now, which is the same .com, .org, .info, etc. And then we also have CCTLDs, which is country code top level domain names. And these are the TLDs that are specific to your country. For example, .vc for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, .jm, .tt, etc. for different countries. So we'll talk about, you'd have to understand the core difference between the different TLDs, right? What a label is, understanding the IDNA 2003 and also the IDNA 2008, the standards these are the standards that make IDNs possible. We also have to discuss things like the limitations in the legacy protocols like HTTP or FTP when it comes to IDNs, because as we know, at the core, they are developed to support English characters or Latin American characters. So we have to explore the limitations of that as well. We have to talk about using tools such as NSLOOKUP with IDNS in troubleshooting. Now, this module could fit well into a data communication and computer networks course, or even a web technology course. And it's important for students to see how domain names can be used to reflect your identity. So just imagine someone in SVG being able to register their name in Creole, which is the local dialect or the Garifuna language. This module will open the students' minds to how the internet should reflect linguistic and cultural diversity and achieve technical functionality. Am I losing anybody? No? Good. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So there are 6 modules and we're on to there are 12 modules, sorry. We're on to module 6 now, which is programming with internationalized domain names or IDNs. So what we're gonna do with this module 6 is to take the concepts that you would have learned in module 5 and put them into practice. So it is one thing to understand what IDNs are, but this module teaches students how to write software that correctly handles IDNs in real world applications. And topics covered could include implementing IDNA 2008 in different programming languages, exploring libraries and APIs that support IDNs like Python, Java, JavaScript. Understanding the pitfalls of IDNA 2003, especially when with string handling and display, and how IDNA 2008 improves on that. Now, this model is hands-on and it's very coding heavy. So it's perfect for students in courses like network programming, web application development, or advanced networking. This has practical value for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Students will learn how to build websites and services that let people register domain names or build content in their own language, creating a stronger cultural and business presence online for us. Now, the next module, Advanced Topics in Internationalized Domain Names or IDNs. This module is meant for more experienced students. So you notice as we go from module 1, now we're down to module 7, it gets more advanced as we take baby steps into the process. So this module is meant for more experienced students, those who already work with the different IDNAs and are ready to dive into the behind-the-scenes mechanisms that make IDNs safe, reliable, and functional. And what we will explore in this module is the limitations of the IDNA 2008 standards, the evolution of LGR formats, LGR meaning label generation rules formats, especially when we talk about things like XML, XML-based ones used for automation and validation, understanding variant labels, how similar looking characters or different spellings are handled, especially to prevent duplication or fraud. Advanced topics. So this module would be great to fit into courses that covers topics that are advanced in internet infrastructure, or even a newly developed course, because this is pretty advanced. And this course could be called Universal Acceptance and Global Internet Standards. And for us in SVG, it is an opportunity to empower our students to understand how languages and scripts are formally included in the internet's backbone. It also introduces students to internet governance topics, bridging the technology with policy and cultural preservation. So while it is technical, this module is also about representation. So it makes sure that our region and our voices are considered in the internet's architecture. Next module, module 8, email address internationalization or EAI. So we've been talking about IDNs so far, now we're going into EAI. So we move into the world of email address internationalization, also known as EAI. Now we've already accepted that domain names can exist in multiple scripts, but what about email addresses? This module teaches students that yes, email addresses can be written in non-Latin characters, and systems need to support that. Students will learn why we need EAI and how it opens up email access to more people worldwide. what technical changes are made to email protocols to support EAI, and how to store email addresses written in different scripts such as Chinese or Arabic or Hindi. Considerations must be given to things like mailbox names using local scripts, handling directories, encoding, and length. The module will introduce students to how email works under the hood. So we all have email addresses. We send emails, we read emails, but we do not really understand how does it work. So in order to do these types of programming and consider for EAI, we have to look under the hood. How do emails work, and how do we need to change it or code email addresses so that we can cater for EAIs? This module is a strong fit for networking, email systems, or data communication and computer network courses. This will enable developers to build systems that adapt to users instead of asking users to adapt to the system, which is what we've been doing so far. Module 9. Programming for Email Address Internationalization, or EAI. So in module 8, before we introduced the concept of EAI, and now in module 9, we get hands-on and dive into how to program with internationalized email addresses. This is where students learn to actually build systems that can send, receive, and manage email addresses written in local scripts or non-Latin American scripts. The topic covered would include handling UTF-8 or non-ASCII characters, using libraries and APIs that support EAI over SMTP. SMTP, I hope you're familiar with, is a simple mail transfer protocol. Parsing and validating internationalized email addresses correctly, developing features that allow users to input, save, and update EAI addresses without errors, sending and receiving emails using script addresses in applications. This is a practical programming heavy module that is ideal for advanced web development, server-side programming, or email system administration courses. Now, module 10, which is processing IDNs and EAIs in mobile apps. Now, let's be honest. Most people today access the internet primarily through their mobile phones or other mobile devices. So it is critical then that apps we build are built for mobile and it is critical that the apps we build for mobile devices are also universal acceptance ready. And this module will include ensuring Unicode supporting mobile apps, handling scripts without crashing or corrupting text, using text layout engines and rendering frameworks to properly display bidirectional text, leveraging tools such as ICU, which is international components for Unicode, to handle complex scripts in Android and iOS. Integrating IDN compatible URLs and EAI's compatible email fields into mobile UIs. Using programming languages that can access and validate IDNs and EAIs in mobile environments. This module is ideal for students in, obviously, mobile application development courses. It challenges them to consider accessibility beyond the screen. And to move to module 11, which is ID and security. Now, once we talk about security, we're getting into the critical area. And module 11 will focus on the unique security challenges that come with internationalized domain names and email address internationalization. As powerful as IDNs and EDIs are, they are also open to security risks. And obviously, these security risks would be new as well, especially around spoofing, phishing, and deception. Now, students would explore how attackers use Unicode characters to create deceptive domain names using Cyrillic letters, how to use Unicode security mechanisms to detect and prevent these attacks, understanding DNS security when dealing with internationalized email addresses, real-world issues like phishing emails and deceptive sender names or fake domain registrations, tools and methods for mitigating threats. This module is perfect for computer security courses like cybersecurity. It's especially relevant for anyone working in financial tech, e-commerce, or government systems where trust and security are non-negotiable. I will move to the final module, which is Unicode support in operating systems. So we're gonna just close the series by zooming out and looking at how it all works, Unicodes, IDNs, and EAI in support, or is it supported at the operating system level? This module gives students a deep understanding of what happens behind the scenes when a system processes international text, domains, or email addresses. It would include why Unicode support is essential in modern operating systems, how file systems handle Unicode file names, case sensitive versus non-case sensitive, and how that varies between Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, etc. Unicode string manipulation functions provided by operating systems, sorting and collation at the system level, working with Unicode APIs provided by the operating system to develop multilingual apps and system tools. And this module would be perfect for a perfect fit for operating system courses or even advanced system programming. And it's a great capstone module because it pulls together the key ideas from the earlier modules, the text processing, display, storage, validation, and security, and shows how they all rely on underlying OS support. This module prepares students not just to build apps, but to understand how the entire software stack must support UA if we want full inclusion. It's about ensuring that support for local languages and scripts isn't optional. It's baked into the system from the ground up. And we'll talk now about the coursework impact. So now that we've walked through all 12 modules, the next question is, where do these fit in our existing academic programs? Now, the good news is that you do not need to create entirely new degrees or new courses or new majors in universal acceptance. These modules can be easily integrated into existing courses that you are probably, I know from my experience working at SBGCC, that you are already offering. Now we'll just do a little recap. We talk about programming 1, fundamentals of programming for basic Unicode handling, object-oriented programming to introduce Unicode in classes, methods, and file operations, data structures and algorithms to sort and search Unicode strings, database management systems for storing and querying multilingual data, computer networks or data communication to teach IDNs, EAIs, and also their protocols, mobile application development to make sure apps support international text and domains, computer security to address Unicode-based spoofing and domain impersonation, operating systems to explore Unicode integration at the system level, and if the institution has the capacity, we can also suggest introducing a new course or maybe an elective, which could be called Advanced Topics in IDNs and Universal Acceptance. Now, this could be a deep dive course for senior students covering technical standards, real-world implementation, and even UA-related policy topics. The goal here is flexibility. Start small, maybe with a guest lecturer, a lab session, or a single module in one course, and grow from there. Every step we take towards integrating UA into coursework is a step toward building a more inclusive, globally connected digital future right here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So that is where we conclude for this session. And I want to thank you for your attention. And I'll turn over to our moderator.
Thank you, Chrislyn. It was dense, but I am sure that our young minds understood everything that you said. I must admit, you lost me as you got into the modules. But then I sat and I said, okay, my younger ones and the lecturers and so forth, they would know what to do. And in terms of the question, but I'm only going to be a little bit of a provocateur and ask you again, what is the subtopic for today? And Chrislyn said it when she started. Tell me. Very good. And what's your name?
Ryan Vera.
Ryan Vera. Thank you very much, Ryan. You and Matthew are my two best friends today. Okay, so, and all right, so the other, well, clearly this is actually this part of the presentation of today is specifically for you. So I know that you are burning with questions, you want clarifications. So I'm going to open up the floor. And you notice that Chrislyn went back on the 5 steps. I actually wrote them down this time where she spoke about acceptance, validation, processing, storing, and displaying. So clearly that is an important aspect of UA. So I suggest that we all get very familiar with that. Now the floor is open, so I'm going to tag along this time. I'm not leading. Come, Tia. Tia is ready.
Hi, my name is Tia. My question is, well, I'm not sure if I heard the answer, but my question is, which level of education do you plan to insert learning and practical of the universal acceptance?
Section we intend to implement each level. Mhm. All right, so as you can see from the presentation, thank you for your question, first of all. Universal acceptance is a very technical topic. So as it is right now, our intention is to integrate it at the tertiary level, which is why we're targeting the community college, and the intention is also to reach out to other tertiary institutions within St. Vincent and the Grenadines and also the Caribbean at large, right? So it's not to say that at some point we would not reach the level where we would try to integrate it at the lower levels like secondary, but right now our target audience is tertiary institutions.
Additionally to that. Right. And that additionally to that, why do you think that the tertiary level is the best option? Why?
Right, so this is a personal question. Why do I think it's the best option? Really and truly, if you think of the tertiary, the curriculum or the tertiary institution, especially at the IT level, there's a lot of programming happening. And here, the developers here are also learning and doing their courses with the intention of moving on to continued education, maybe in software development, networking, etc. So it is critical then that if we're molding our developers, then we should mold them in a way that they are more marketable out there. So which is why it is critical. For me, it's important for developers at this level to start learning all the different standards, including universal acceptance, as we move them into the global landscape.
But do you think that it would be a good option to like introduce it to like the secondary level of education?
Introducing it at the secondary level of education.
Yes.
Well, all right. So one of our mandates is awareness, right? And when we are doing awareness, we're not limiting it to tertiary institutions or the general public, developers, primary. Awareness is not limited to any level. So yes, it is important to introduce it at all levels. If we can get even primary schools to start at least introducing students when we do our IT courses and our secondary institutions also to start introducing universal acceptance, and yes, of course, it is welcomed. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for answering my question.
Come along. Yes.
I stand right here.
Yes, good afternoon, Declan Scott. My question is, well, I'm going to start with a statement. UA integration in the curriculum is the way forward, right? It's a good step. But do you see any pushback or any challenges? And if so, how do you intend to overcome them?
Thanks, Declan. And I like your question. Pushbacks and challenges. Once we introduce anything new, you can always expect a resistance to change. So there will be pushback and there will be challenges. Now, how do we mitigate these? One, awareness. Two, training. And three, maybe this might be the biggest step of all, which is holding hands throughout the process. Now, universal acceptance is new, right? Which means that there are going to be a lot of lecturers, teachers who are not familiar with the concept. And especially because it's a technical area as well, this is something new that lecturers would have to learn, because if you're going to be teaching it to students, then you would be the first to learn the concept and understand it. So yes, we expect that there will be some kind of pushback, but at the same time, we have to be prepared to meet our lecturers where they are, help them, encourage them, and also, if possible, try to get specialized experts to come in and conduct training with the lecturers. And to just assure everyone that, look, even though it is a technical concept and it is new to you, you can do this. Because at the end of the day, our mandate is to prepare our students for the future. And we cannot only prepare them based on knowledge that we have a long time ago. We have to embrace new technologies going forward and bring them into the new global space. Thank you.
Hi, Jamila. So I know we have a lot of work to do in order to get the ball rolling. So realistically, what is the goal for you to start?
The goal to start. Truly, the process has already started. For one, the technology already exists, which is why when Albert did his presentation, he spoke about the evolution of the IDNs and the EAIs. So, which means that the technology is there. We have already started. And now what we have to do now as educators and institutions is play catch up. So the process, it's already started. What we have to do is, as an institution, make a decision. Is this something that we want to do? Obviously, it is something that you have to do eventually because you want to produce the best students coming out of SVGCC. But it is up to you now. When do you want to start? Are you ready now? This is our first step in bringing awareness, introducing you to the modules. Are you ready? And once you're ready, then yes, there will be support available through ICON. And the next presenter will go a little bit more into the support that would be available for you. But also just to say that a lot of the curriculum have already been developed. So the information that you need to integrate the modules into your courses are already there. They are publicly available and you can be pointed in the right direction and also get help to get there. Thank you.
While you all know about it, I just have I think they have more questions, but I just want to ask one. So one mine has to do with the time frame, because I'm sure you have a time frame in which you expect this to be rolled out, so to speak. Secondly, in terms of engagement with the Ministry of Education, CXC, and also the other tertiary institutions within the region, if we have plans, and if so, tying back to the whole time frame issue.
Tackle the time frame question first. No, there is really no set time frame that we're trying to accomplish this. We're basically trying to encourage institutions to go at their own pace. Right? For example, when we suggest the possibility of integrating UA into one course, just to test the market, see where the developers are at, see where the lecturers are at. That could be an introduction of UA into the courses. And based on that, we can start taking it in increments from one course, then two courses, and then going down. But I wouldn't suggest that we go full blown into it one time and just integrate UA into all the courses, because we have to have a study at some point. We have to address education of both the lecturers and also talk about the technologies that exist in St. Vincent and also access. And the second part of your question was about
Ministry of Education, CXC,
Mhm.
and other tertiary.
So widening the engagement audience, so basically. So reality is universal acceptance is a fairly new concept in the Caribbean, right? So when there are universal acceptance days in different countries across the Caribbean, targeting different audiences. So right now, this target is where we're targeting the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College. And it would have been nice if we had a representation from the government and also the Ministry of Education. But at some point, we will be engaging them. But our first engagement starts here. Once the community college is willing to accept this initiative and push forward with it, that is how we would move forward. For example, engaging CXC. This might be a policy that has to build from the ground up. So if the colleges are saying, okay, this is something that we want to teach now, this is something that we want to be integrated into the curriculum, then it is at that point we can start approaching the different organizations, the different stakeholders to start getting this implemented into the policy. So we can have that conversation at the different levels. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, so there's a bottom-up approach you're thinking of, but there's also value where you can do both, right? Right. My other issue is, you have to pardon me, and I am unapologetic. There's obviously a cost associated with this. And I'm quoting from the scripture that says, you have to, when you're going to do a building, you have to count the cost. So there is a cost associated with this. How much of a stumbling block would you think this is? And if not, well, if the cost is minimal and it shouldn't have an impact.
Well, the cost is a good question. Really and truly, once you're implementing anything new, especially if you have to train stakeholders and introduce new technology, there is going to be a cost associated with it. Now, I am not going to say that the institution would not be bearing any cost, because this is your chance to own this opportunity. This is yours. But at the same time, there are opportunities for you to partner with different organizations. For example, there is support available at ICANN. I cannot say whether or not ICANN would be funding anything monetary wise. I think we could probably ask one of the ICANN persons that are online, maybe Albert or Daniel, in terms of answering that particular question from that point of view. But yes, most definitely, there will be a cost associated with it. We are here in this room right now doing this awareness session, and obviously there is a cost associated with even this session. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, Chrislyn, I mean, from an ICANN perspective, most of the funds that are available are really for this outreach and engagement that we are doing. But you may find as you engage in the ICANN environment that there is the possibility that projects may be written, because, for example, right now, there's the ICANN grant program going on where funds are being given for different projects. So it may be a possibility that an organization, a not-for-profit organization, can apply to do a project related to this in a school where some funds may be available. But off the bat, there is no specific project funding available for this, but you may be able to get through one of the existing structures that are in place at ICANN.
Thanks, Albert. My question was so much even related to the source of fund, but actually the cost of implementing this new technology. But I suppose that will come out a little further later on. So back to any questions online? None? Any other questions? Simone, Roxanne? Marcel, any question? lecturers, students. Okay, so thank you, Chrislyn. You were very clear. So- Okay, so we have our last presentation for today. So let me just pull back up the agenda. Please to forgive me. It's from Daniel Fink, and he is going to speak on the topic, how can ICON help? Let me tell you a little bit about Daniel. He is the Stakeholder Engagement Director in Brazil. He joined ICON in May 2014 and is based in Sao Paulo, Brazil. He acted as Head of Science and Technology for the Embassy of Brazil in Seoul and holds a PhD in Management Science from the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Previous to joining ICON, Daniel was the Executive Director for the Net Mundial Secretariat. Let's welcome Daniel to greet.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us?
Perfectly. Thank you so much. I suppose you are Madam Décima Correa. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Very nice to meet you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for being late in the event today. I was attending another UA day in Dominican Republic. And first of all, thank you for this opportunity. Congratulations for organizing this. It seems great. I love the camera. The remote participation experience is excellent. Congratulations, Chrislyn. I saw the last part of your presentation, and it's really great. And I think what I have to say now, it's not much. And I think the last questions, discussions, I think it was a great segue for my messaging. And I'm supposed to tell you how we can move forward, right? How we can help. So to start with, I would like to explain about something that complements what Chrislyn just told you about all the acronyms, all the modules, the complicated terms, that it is how we integrate all these modules into your universities, into academic curricula. And this is an agreement that ICON is pursuing with universities around the world. And we would really appreciate to have the opportunity to engage with universities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for doing this cooperation. I have here a PDF, which Chrislyn certainly have already, that I would like to go through with you very, very quickly. It's a little flyer about how this program works. So let me zoom here a bit. So why implement UA curriculum? I think Chrislyn explained very well how deep and broad these disciplines can be for like really preparing capacity for program software developers, system administrators towards UA readiness. So we would like to verify the possibility of universities start teaching about all these concepts and really create the next generation of IT experts that will consider UA best practices into their activities. So we do that by sharing and training university teachers on all these modules that Krislin explained. The good news is that we already developed the textbooks, all the contents, textbooks, books for students, and also slides for the professors. Everything is ready to be shared and ready to be implemented into into the classes in the university. But only the textbooks and slides are not sufficient, right? So we need to update and prepare the professors first of all to run these contents in the universities. So what is our role on this cooperation? If you'd be so kind to recommend us to some of your universities. So our role is to provide the materials, as I explained, and we will put your teachers in touch with one of our experts for some training. So ICANN will provide sessions to professors, and this is usually composed of 2 or 3 days of faculty training to go through all the materials with them, and also keep providing support, assistance during up to 2 years on the curriculum integration. And what we expect from the university that accept to working with us would be like, please make some professors available for this training. We can do this either online or sending the expert to St. Vincent. And most important, think about some ways that this curriculum could be integrated. I know this is sometimes very hard for the universities to change curriculum. These are very serious structures that all universities already have, but we are quite flexible in working with developing this curriculum, starting with a small number of classes or having these topics included in existing classes, or the best, after some time, perhaps you can do some particular classes, specific classes about universal acceptance, or even a postgraduate course would be perfectly fine for sharing this information with the students. So this is what we expect from the university, like to receive the training and integrating this into some sessions during the academic calendar. And the instrument we do for implementing this is to signing a contract, signing one agreement with the university. This agreement will prepare the visit of the ICANN expert, and also structure the support, the constant collaboration between ICANN and the university during the integration period. So this is what I would like to share with you about the academic curricula, and happy to perhaps implement in St. Vincent with the first university in the Caribbean that will adopt the UA curriculum. So I see a question from Lance, and Lance, please go ahead.
Thank you, Daniel, for the presentation. This is very interesting. Based on the work that you've done now, is this an elective track, or this could be a subject area track? Like, for example, the university might have an MIS track and then there's a software engineering track. Like for example, the University of Guyana would have that. There's a software engineering track, there's an MIS track. So there are things like that. So is there enough in this curriculum to talk about it being a separate track by itself, or this is an elective track that you see that you could integrate into an existing curriculum? I only ask that because there are already X amount of credit hours that are being taught. So the question of how you weave this in, because this is the kind of thing that you have to present to an academic board. So how you weave this in and how you do it is something that we would need to be clear on in terms of the subject matter that you have. But it is a wonderful idea.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Lance. Well, the materials we have is good for an entire class, for an entire discipline. No doubt about that. It was developed by academics, by the way, in academic format. So it's ready to be a full course. However, we provide all these materials, but enough for an entire class, but we do not expect to be so quickly adopted entirely by the university. So it could be a segment of an existing class without any problem, as long as we can start, perhaps take some years to be fully integrated, but we don't mind. We don't mind how the university implement. So we do not try to have mandatory requisites for the adoption, as long as something is adopted. Right? And if we think about the possibilities, like not just a full course, but also universal acceptance could be an entire research segment for the university, like in the future, perhaps. So if we are very optimistic, but I think the discipline is very solid, yeah. But it doesn't matter, as long as the students start thinking about, start considering, remember this is important, it's already a great achievement.
Are you stuck only on universities, or if there are other training centers that have the qualifications, would you also collaborate with them as well?
Beyond academics, we have a self EAI certification. This is something that we are offering to companies, service providers. We provide guidelines for organizations that manage email systems, like electronic mail servers, to self-certificate. So we publish the requirements, what they need to look at to make sure their systems are ready for email internationalization. And we provide stamps, something they can advertise to the industry that they are ready to comply. So this is our initiative with more with the private sector, with the system operators, and we also encourage adoption. We encourage adoption portals, web portals, companies that have a strong online presence. We are always ready to provide technical assistance in case they want to make sure the systems are updated to best universal acceptance standards.
Thanks, Daniel.
Sure.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Lance. Any questions from here? Oh, Claire, go ahead.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. Are you hearing me okay? I'm on my phone right now, so I hope my audio is okay.
Yes, we can hear you very clearly.
Great. Daniel, so I think this is a really good initiative that is happening here. But one of the challenges I think that we still have in the Caribbean is the awareness. And I know even in terms of setting up, requesting these events this year, the focus was more on more advanced, and hence the reason we were Crystalline was able to get this particular event scheduled. But as you see, we still have what we would need for something like this is more lecturers and more academics to be involved. And I think they may need more awareness sessions. How do you think we can go about getting our academics involved so that they can be asking the kind of questions that Lance just asked, and that they will be willing to take it to their academic boards and to their institutions?
I love this question, Claire. Hello, Claire. Great to see you, talk to you. May I start, Albert, or you want to start? Can I start? Okay. Okay. Sure. So, yeah, it's true. It's becoming interesting, right, to apply for UA Day event. But UA Days are just a season, right, Claire? It's just something I can organize to have frequent events around the globe around the March 28th, Universal Acceptance Day. This is fine. It's been happening for 3 years already, and they have some strategy. I think it's fair. Like they want to push the industry, everybody, including the academics, a little bit. Okay, guys, we already talk a lot for the last 3 years. Now it's time to do something. So please prepare some adoption. Please look at some website and try to adapt. So I see there are more incentives for more advanced events, but the lack of awareness is still there. But we have the remaining part of the year, in my opinion. So anytime you detect somebody that would like to know more, that would be nice to be in touch, we can organize a seminar. We can be online and share information with them, and particularly with academics. I think I did a doctorate in South Korea, and I know a little bit what happens inside the university. And teachers, they love to do some research also, right? And there are many research opportunities to publish papers and also do some technical practices around universal acceptance. And maybe this is a topic that could really call the attention of many academics around the region. It would be fine. So I think, yeah, we are always open, but sometimes we do not advertise that we want to talk with everybody. So I understand with you, Claire. Maybe we can after UA Day season, perhaps we can do some more awareness and keep this as a continuous task. So we have more people looking at the topic, right? Albert.
So if I could just jump back in, so thank you. So if I can repeat what I think you're saying, is that the UA Day event is a particular season and a particular timing for this to happen, but we are not limited to having different sessions throughout the year, and we could reach out to ICANN to support any initiatives in this area that we may want to, and therefore there may be to the RAILOs or whatever else, or ALSs, that we can do it, which is, as Albert likes to, the RAILO is the regional at-large organizations, or through our at-large organizations. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly what I'm saying. And including the academic curriculum engagement, this program that I just explained, this is something we plan to do all the time. We want to, the first step is to have a awareness conversation with the university, and then we're gonna start talking about the curriculum integration. And including we have more staff to do this. So yes, we should do this all the time, not just during UA Day season.
Thank you, Daniel.
Sure.
Albert?
Yes, this is the thing about participation in ICANN. When you participate, your perspective is heard, your reality is understood. What is happening right now in ICANN is for the past 3 years, as Daniel says, there's been a lot of outreach and awareness building going on. So the perception, as he indicated, is that since all of this outreach has been done, we should now be at the stage for implementation and adoption. The reality for most parts of the Caribbean is that we are not there yet. Okay, we still need to have a lot of outreach and awareness building done in many different areas. And what we try to do at ICANN is what we refer to as demand-driven engagement. So we don't just go and try to push everything down your throats, but we see what is it that you are interested in. What topics would you like to hear more about? But as Daniel says, you know, we are ready, we are able to do engagement and awareness building on any topic related to what's happening at ICANN, including universal acceptance at any time of the year, not just on Universal Acceptance Day. So I think some of it has to do with, you know, our own Caribbean participation in ICANN, you know, letting them know, well, hey, yes, maybe a large part of the world has gone beyond awareness building and is ready to go into adoption. But the Caribbean situation, you know, is a little bit different because we are not yet at the point where everyone in the Caribbean knows about universal acceptance.
Daniel?
No, I just want to remember something that Chrisling did last year, right, Chrisling? I don't know if you shared the results of your research. Chrisling did something really nice. We talked about investigating the most important hotels in the Caribbean region to check for universal acceptance. Is that correct, Chrisling? And she did a wonderful job. And the value, the research opportunities are so great that Chrisling found that most of the top luxury hotels in the Caribbean are UA ready. And perhaps one of the most advanced regions in the world that can deal with internationalized emails for booking hotels. And this is excellent news. Like, we have a lot of opportunities, and it makes sense. Your region is very sensitive to foreign visitors, right? Which is a driver of economic growth. And surprisingly, Chrisling found that most of these large hotels that you operate are already aware and already did something, isn't it, Chrisling? And this is a fantastic example of the potential that the world should be looking at you. And only through research like Chrisling did, we can bring light to this very positive facts. Thank you.
Any questions from the floor? Thank you. Claire, Daniel, and Albert, and of course Lance. So there's another one. You sent it? Oh yes, I have a question online, they just informed me. From Dwayne De Freitas. Are there plans to provide certifications while integrating into the education system?
Well, we leave this to the university. We plan to prepare the university to be capable of conducting this, transferring this knowledge to the students, and then the universities can apply their own certificates with the universal acceptance terms to their students.
Any questions from here? No? So I don't think we have any more questions for you, Daniel. So thank you very much. Right, so we are heading towards the end, and we're doing very well for time because we need to stop at about 1. So while you ruminate in your mind all the things that you have heard, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. Does anybody remember what IDN means? It's not just international, there's another, you have to add on something. Domain name, yeah, internationalized, right? Does anybody remember what UA stands for? Stands for? Okay. Internet Corporation for assigned names and numbers. Does anybody remember what Captain stands for? She's the head. Okay, she's in the character. Does anybody remember what it stands for? Caribbean Network Operators Group. So that was like flow and digital and then lots of people. So does anybody remember what ISOC stands for? I was right. RC stands for President Senate. Very good. Does anybody remember TLD stands for? Top level domain. And what if you put 2 C's in front of it, what's that? So give an example. What is it? Does anybody remember what EAI stands for? Email address. I'm proud of you. I'm extremely proud of you. Yes, they did very well. Okay, so I think we can invite Roxanne. Yes, to give the vote of thanks. There may be some other ones that I want to ask you, but maybe not. I suspect you all might. See that you did so well. Roxy, come on, please, to give us the vote of thanks. She's our vice president for ISOC, and she was the president for a number of years, and she was demoted to vice president. It's not the truth, though.
She's smiling. You talk about emotional smile. Okay. Thank you, Desi. And we have to first thank God for giving us a wonderful day. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree.
Let's thank God. I know technology at the beginning we had a little, just like setting up, but relatively things run smoothly technological wise. So we want to thank God for that. We had to thank ICANN for agreeing to partner with us once again on the second UA Day. And I'm happy to hear this morning that UNESCO is on board with ICANN on this great initiative. And I know that many other international organizations will come aboard as we all realize the importance of universal acceptance. And we just want to thank our UN Ambassador Christine Goulburn-Harry for leading the way in this initiative. And of course, she did not do it by herself. Behind her, we have the Internet Society St. Vincent and the Grenadines chapter executive that serves as the secretariat for this initiative, and also the planner, because we have a planning committee as well who would have met together, which Decima is part of, and would have planned out this day. So we just want to thank them for the hard work and to see the fruition today. Actually, Kristen is the one who determined what area of focus each year. And the fact that she chose this area to inform the community college, it means that she was on track, because when I listen to our presenters, I realize that she's on track in the way how things are being outlined. And we just want to thank our presenters, our friend Albert Daniels, who was with us on these initiatives, ISOC and ICANN collaboration efforts. Daniel Frank, we thank you so much. And Kreslin, who outlined to us that appears to be long curriculum or modules. But I think in the end, as you said, different aspects will be integrated. And you can have advanced courses. Because as you said, it's not that some of it, it's not that they're all new to learning, to the academia, but you can integrate as you go along. So we just want to thank you for taking us through that curriculum. And then we want to thank Community College for accepting our invitation to be with us today. We have our lecturers and our students, both in person here and online. I'm seeing some of our Community College students online as well. We want to thank you, and for other participants who are not part of the college, they're not a member of ISOC, but they have also other interests. And I'm happy to see Craig, my friend, and Lance Hines, and happy to see come see to you. Rodney, yes, happy to have all of you on today to participate with us, to share your experiences, and also to ask questions. I was really pleased to hear the type of questions our students have asked today. Now, normally, if you don't ask questions, it's either two things: you don't understand or you weren't paying attention. But the fact that you ask another question tells me that you are paying attention. I was looking around and realized that you guys really did put away your phone, and you really were focused, and you really had, especially Christine, when she thinks she can sit down, no. We have questions for you. And I don't think not that they didn't understand, but it's a matter that they understand so well that they can ask questions to really cement what they have learned. And it really, I'm very impressed with our students. And I think we have good interest. And I like the call, the last call that was made. And that is to collaborate, to have this integration of the curriculum. And I hope that the community college will take on this challenge. So it means that we have to continue our dialogue with you. We have to continue follow-up so that we can make this day more impactful, rather than just awareness, but let us see if we can have some action as well. There's always, the opportunity is always great, and it's always good to take on the opportunities at the beginning, not wait until when things are still. We want to thank NTRC for once again coming to our support. They are one of our partners, NTRC, and we have Marcellus Constance, and Venicia Douglas. Nice to meet you. First time meeting you. Yeah, I see Marcellus has a very good assistant there, and I know she was tracking online and everything, and she makes sure it's in our place. We want to thank you for really being with us once again, because without the technical persons behind the scene, we'll be making a bluff of things. Is that true? So, you're very, very important. And we want to thank Love You Management for accepting our request to patronize the services, and we are displaying great things on time. Meantime. Okay, you could have a very good program, and if you're mealing good, that's it to that. It's like it was there. So I could see the kind of I know they're noted for good stuff in the kitchen. At the restaurant, right? At the restaurant, which is close by right there. We go to the restaurant. We're not having to take classy. So we want to thank everybody. Decima, I want to thank you for chairing, moderating, as usual. I was calling her. And of course she said, why me? But who else? And thank Simone for the leadership and leading in as the ISOC president. We thank you for really working with us. And who else I forget to thank?
Thank you for that.
So thank you, everybody, and let us continue dialogue. One push, and that is the Internet Society chapter, which has been established in 2017. And we are a non-profit organization. We are registered in St. Vincent and Grenadines. One of our mandate is like this, to educate and to create awareness. Our focus is on when it comes to ICT development or internet development, you call us. Cybersecurity, you have UA. We have our annual IGF, Internet Governance Forum. And of course, it's a forum. So you have various different topics of interest, especially things that are trending. That is what we try to capture. And later on in this year, you'll hear from us because we'll invite you to our IGF. And the membership is free, it's open. The vision is internet, what? Internet for all, right? I was so unshocked and I fooled myself, right? You know, it's open to whether you are a student. Yeah, that's it. It's for everyone, right? So it's open to everybody, whether you're working, you're not working, you're a user. You may come here today and you don't even know what's going on. But the most important thing is that you create awareness. And when you're on the internet, when you're reading, you'll understand, oh, I heard you talk about it before. Right? It will stimulate you to ask questions. And you know, sometimes you may have like in the war areas that you may hear, oh, they don't want people to use the internet anymore because information is spreading. You hear a lot of, we call it fake news going around. Just to help people to detect fake news and to know how to respond and behave on social media. You know? So how should you react? Our duty is to that. So we want to bring you on board. As students, you may not be able to be on the board of executive, but you have a say, you have a right, you can be part of our program. But if you're not a student, you can be part of our executive. It's very open. Every year we want people to come on board. So I'm trying out to plug. See us, see Simone, see any one of us to just to be part, to join, to have a say. And we like to have run these type of programs and much more, even to the community college and other institutions. So thank you for listening and for being part. And I don't want to hold back because lunch is ready. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Roxanne. So I understand that they were trying to let me know where the restaurant is. I have no clue. So follow Roxanne and Simone, and that's where the lunch is served. So thanks again for coming. Oh, online participants, we thank you as well very much. You are welcome to join us, Lance. Have a good one. Thanks, all.